All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the show. Today's Saturday, April 9th, 2022, and you are now watching Permission to Exist. I am your host, Permission to Exist, also known as PTE. And in this video, we are going to do a live review of my most recent video release. And the reason is because several viewers reached out and asked that I read the slides that are showing up in between the video clips. So I will do that. It's my understanding some of you prefer to listen to those words as opposed to read them. And that makes sense because there are a lot of words on the screen and you might be busy doing other things like driving, cleaning, working, and may not be able to actually pause and read every screen in between. So I think it's a good idea, and I am doing that as promised. Also, I figured I probably would have more to say in between each clip, which I did when I was making the video, but I just couldn't fit all those words on the screen. So I will probably also pause and give a little bit more commentary than are on each individual slide. Grab a couple of your comments from the chat and then we'll close out. We have been on this man's neck ever since we found out about this video. And before we start, I will say that I think what is happening here, first of all, these demons are exposing themselves. We could start there. And it's almost like they're compelled to do so. They feel compelled to expose themselves. For those of you who saw my Fun with Scammers video, which is a real scam call that took place after I got a text saying that some charge was going through on my Amazon account, notice how he cracked and basically confessed, I believe, to being someone who is interested in people who are not the proper age. And then when I said, "You like children?" He goes, "No, no, no, like 20, 21." And I was like, "Oh, okay." That was a confession. That was a complete confession, but they feel compelled to do so. I think they feel emboldened. I think they feel like their plans are working. And I think they feel like nothing can stop them now. So now they're starting to test out new waters. They've already violated in so many different ways before and not gotten in trouble for it. As a matter of fact, have been rewarded monetarily, financially, and with clout, to be honest with you, have been rewarded for their bad behavior. So now I feel like they're moving into their end game and they're moving into what they actually want, and that is to target your children, many of them. That's why so many of them keep getting caught up in real cases with the feds regarding inappropriate contact with people who are not of the appropriate age. So, this is who we're dealing with. This is the group that we're dealing with. It's characteristic of almost all of them, if not all of them. And I have things to say regarding the mother's response as well. Now, I do not hold her responsible for what took place here. I think she did the best she could in the middle of extreme gaslighting, extreme manipulation, and extreme evil. I think she did the best she could. And I really think she showed up with a different mindset. So she was not prepared for this line of questioning that Kevin came at her with. But I also believe that she did okay for someone in her circumstance. But I do want to comment on some of the things that she said that kind of show where her mind is at. And hey, Awa, I got your email. Thank you so much. I'll write you back probably after the show, okay? But that was pretty cool. I like that. So why don't we go ahead and get started, okay? Yeah, it's unbelievable. It says, I just can't believe how many subscribers this POS has. It's unreal. And I think what bothers me so much is that not only is he training and grooming the younger generations of males and women, because women tune in, women call into his show all the time, which means that they don't see it. They don't see the evil. And that is one of the greatest threats that we are facing. Women just don't see it. A lot of women have so been brainwashed up until this point that they don't even understand what's happening to them. They've completely lost their permission to exist. It's 100% gone. Then those same girls get tricked, manipulated, gaslighted, eventually end up with a child as a result of all of that. And now this woman who already couldn't see evil is raising a child. So we have a lot to talk about. So what we're going to do is I'm going to play the video. I'm going to be pausing it on the slides, obviously. And I'm also going to be pausing it in places where there isn't necessarily a slide, if there's something I want to say and I just didn't add in there, okay? So why don't we go ahead and get started, everybody? Let me get this video pulled up. Welcome to everyone in the chat. Good to have you. Good to see you. And why don't we go ahead and get started? Welcome, and I hope this is what everyone wanted for those who wanted the slides read, okay? So let's begin. Hold on, I hear me talking from somewhere. Oh, it's over here. Okay, why don't we try that again? Let's back it up. Boom. And do I want the music? Nah, we'll do it without music today, okay? So here we go. In this highly disturbing Instagram interview, first exposed by Nyla's Vibes on YouTube, Kevin Samuels engages in the public grooming of a single mother. The interview is about 35 minutes long, but the grooming begins around the 14-minute mark. In this shocking clip, Kevin asks the mother how she will make the child an asset to the man and proposes a hypothetical question to her that qualifies this man's mindset as predatory, to say the least. The most troubling aspect of this is he mentors millions of young men and women every day on social media. Warning, the content of this clip is highly triggering. Viewer discretion advised. It is time to take action against this threat now, okay? And I'm going to put in my headphones so I can play it for y'all, but there shouldn't be any feedback. All right, so let's begin.
And far too many guys today, especially black men, are starting to say we're not stepping up to be stepdaddies.
So we can go ahead and pause right here, just in the very beginning. He said, far too many black men today are saying we're not stepping up to be stepdaddies. But then men like Kevin are the same men who will turn around and complain about the failing state of the Black community and how the family has been ripped apart and how the government took Black men out of the home. And on and on and on they will go. But then he'll sit here and say with all sincerity that most men are not stepping up today to be stepdaddies. Well, Kevin, we know. And they're also, in general, a lot of them are not stepping up to be fathers either, which is how the circumstance for a stepchild, step-parent situation got created in the first place. The father is missing in action. Now, they would like to have you believe that fathers are missing in action because the mothers ran them out of the home. But if you had a man like Kevin in your home, wouldn't you want to run him out of there as well? You're worried about, and I'm assuming you've all already seen the video, so I'm going to be doing spoiler alerts. You're worried about whether or not you'll be accused of looking at my child coming out of the shower 10 years from now. So he's actually projecting 10 years into the future regarding whether or not he'll be accused of something very specific and very inappropriate. So yeah, you need to get out of the house. So there's a million reasons that they either get put out, they leave on their own, sometimes they die, sometimes they get arrested, whatever the circumstance. Yes, the state of the family in the Black community is in shambles, but then how can he sit here and so proudly say, well, most men today aren't stepping up to be stepdaddies. And you're proud of that. You think that's honorable. When you see and hear so many stories of men who marry a woman, and blend their family with that woman. And it's not a big deal, and they make it their number one priority to make that family work. It happens all the time. People divorce, they get remarried, but he's instilling the attitude environment and atmosphere into the general public that, hey, if a woman has a kid, back off, like just go the other direction. But his reasons for it are what qualifies this man's mindset as predator. Yeah, they want to be free range predators. Absolutely. Let's continue.
That is not, especially the kind of men who can, especially the men who are in the top 20%, who can call some shots. So what does that leave women? What does that leave a lot of women?
So he mentions men being in the top 20%, being able to call some shots as the ones who would be quote unquote marriage material. And he's saying that that top 20% would not want a woman with kids. But here's the thing that you have to think about. If a man is in the top 20%, more than likely he is an older man. Most men don't achieve great success very young. Some men do. Absolutely, it happens. But a lot of men have to actually build and build and build something until they finally reach a level of success that they may not hit until around age 40 or later sometimes. But if you're in the top 20% of males, you're probably a little bit older because you've done investments, bought property, you built a business or two or three. So basically, what he's saying is these older men, what are you looking for then? That only leaves really one type of woman, because a man is not going to enter into the 20% at age 18 unless he's like a number one draft pick athlete. And most of those men who are draft picked athletes and things like that don't want to be married. So, it's so circular, and this is just the beginning. But this is how they gaslight. There's a lot of different things to pick out of this and a lot of different things to learn from this conversation. This is how they gaslight people. They start introducing what they consider to be facts with no examination and no opportunity to examine those facts either. They like to just put it forth as if it's true, but they don't go into all the details about it to determine whether or not what he's saying even makes sense. I don't find Kevin to be all that intelligent. A lot of people say he is, and they're primarily other men in the toxic male manosphere that think that he's smart. Kevin is not that smart, you guys, if you actually listen to what he's saying. But what I've realized is a lot of people don't listen to the words that are being said to them. They just like to be there. They just like to be there, and they just like to hear the words coming out of someone's mouth, but they're not actually listening to what's being said. People don't know how to listen. Let's continue.
If you're looking strictly for husbands, if men who are in the marrying category aren't looking to be stepfathers, what does that look? What does that mean?
I didn't hear the last part because my phone.
If men who are in the husband category are not looking to be stepfathers, what does that leave women with children who want to be married?
Single.
So he says if men who are in the husband category who are not looking to be stepfathers, where does that leave men who want to be married? Or where does that leave the women who want to be married? She said single. And the thing about it is that may be true, but it also may not be true. These men, this is how you know they don't actually like women, you guys. And I don't mean that that means they like men, although some of them do. They don't like you. And it's so hard to process. And it's so hard to understand, but I'm going to try to make you understand. They do not like women. And the reason I say that is if you're a man in the top 20% and you meet a woman who you are attracted to, quite often there's nothing he can do about that. How often have we heard stories of rich men marrying a waitress that they met, rich men marrying a flight attendant that they met, rich men marrying, the dog groomer? You know what I mean? How many times have you heard that story? There's even celebrity instances. I just can't think of any off the top of my head. They totally discount and deny natural attraction. They don't think it exists at all. They think that it's all transactional. And that's what you need to be very concerned about. Kevin is 100% transaction. The part of this video that got cut out, because remember, this actual thing, whole thing is about 35 minutes long. In the start of this video, he says that since women are looking for money and men are looking for sex, well, just tell me how much it costs so we can go ahead and take care of business, basically, is what he said. Tell me how much it costs so we can just go ahead and get that out the way. Very disgusting, very objectifying, but very transactional as well. So it's a transaction to him. It matters not, I don't even think he factors in whether or not he's attracted to you. It's just a matter of, okay, well, I need some sex. How much is it? How much is it going to cost me? And women should be profoundly disgusted by this, but they still call in anyway. They have lost their sense of horror. This is why I've done videos in the past called You Must Believe in the Boogeyman, and you must. They have lost their fear. I saw in one of the last chats that we did, people were mentioning the book, The Gift of Fear by Gavin DeBecker, I think is his name. We might do that book next. I did try to read that book when I was very young. I think I was like 17, 18 when I first tried to read that book, and I did not fully understand it then. So I wonder if I would understand it now. So I think I still have that book around here somewhere. And if I do, that'll be the next book that we do, The Gift of Fear, because so many women have lost their natural instinct of fear. Oh, look at that. Cristiano Ronaldo and his wife are an example. She was his shopper. So, see, like they act like that doesn't happen. They act like they are out here just selecting from the women of their choice, but a lot of times love just happens to you. But they act like there's no such thing as love. Man, that might have to be a separate show. Narcissists act like there's no such thing as love. And I don't think they think there is. And that's why they don't show love, because they don't even think love exists. And if you don't think love exists, what does that enable you to do as a person? But anyway, another point I want to pull out from this little conversation here, where he's asking, well, where does that leave her? She says single. I want y'all to understand how much they try to drive home the point that single is the worst thing that you can be. That no matter what, being single is the ultimate doom, the ultimate end of you as a human being. It's the ultimate failure, being single. And I have just always found this to be the most ridiculous argument of all time, because you already are single. Even if you are in a relationship, even if you're married, have kids, lots of family members who you all like each other, you're always spending time together, lots of friends that you're always around, always with, always doing stuff together, got the pictures to prove it, you are still as single as they come. The only one who's really not single are conjoined twins. And even to some extent, they are still single. They just happen to be connected biologically. You are as single as they come. And that might be a topic I need to discuss on my other channel, A Deeper PTE, link in the description box. The singularity of your singleness. Honey, you are single, darling. Even if you were born in a twin set, even if you are part of a triplet set, you are a single individual. You are solo, honey. You experienced a solo birth, and you will experience a solo death. And for those of you who believe in the spiritual or even anything biblical, you're going to experience a solo judgment. You're as single as they come, but the world has tried to convince you that the more people you have around you, the less single you are. But they have labeled this the ultimate fate. So it's the ultimate thing to be afraid of, ending up single. Oh no. But look at the catch-22 he's put her in. Here's what he's basically said to her. Because you have a child, you cannot access the top 20% of men or marriage material men for that matter. So either that means you die single and die alone because you had a kid and you shouldn't have done that, or you just have to settle for a lesser man. And honestly, I really believe that they would much prefer you settle for a lesser man than for you to choose to be single. There is something about a woman alone that they cannot stand. It keeps them up at night. It is their sole focus and one of their many fixations. The thought of you enjoying life without at least one of them. It's like one of one of the representatives needs to be present at all times or it's going to make me mad. So if you'll notice what Kevin never says, well honey, can you just accept the single lifestyle? He's always trying to put the man back in there, even if it's a lesser one. Pay attention. Chat says singleness is the ultimate fate if you're a parasite or a cold-blooded animal as they are, absolutely. Or if you know you're doomed to hell. Just released a video on A Deeper PTE called The Dark Energy Era. I think you should go watch that. It's very short. Go check it out because I think it has a lot to do with all of this, all of it. And I might do a live stream on that one too, just not tonight and not this weekend. But we might be in the dark energy era, you guys. And this is the type of stuff that is surfacing during that time frame.
Or sideline.
And that's an unfortunate reality. That's going to prohibit you more than anything else, the kid. And I'm not supposed to say it, but it's the truth.
He said let me see if my slide is coming up. Oh no. He said that's going to prohibit you more than anything else, the kid. So one of the things you always have to be listening for in order to be a pretty good listener is you have to be reading between the lines and deducing what's being said. He's basically telling her, you have screwed up in the ultimate way. There's no redemption for you. There's no coming back for you. That's going to be your biggest obstacle, the kid. So what exactly is she supposed to do? Is she supposed to get rid of her child? Is she supposed to... Gosh, this stupid alarm. Why do I have all these alarms set? Is she supposed to send the child away? Is she supposed to give it back? What exactly is she supposed to do? So it's really it's a catch-22 is what it is, because what's done is done. The child has been born. The child is here. So instead of telling her, listen, ma'am, based on my philosophy, you're going to have a tough time finding men, even though that's not true. But based on my philosophy, you're going to have a tough time finding men. You might be better off just investing in your child and trying to set up a nice life for you and your child. But that's not what he wants. He wants her subservient to some man somewhere. Do you understand? Let's continue. And then the chat says, why is being single so bad? I'll tell you why it's so bad to these men. Because being single is your ultimate rejection of them. So even more so than if you were to identify as a lesbian or a woman who dates women or what have you, that's not even as bad to them. The worst thing to them is for you to be single because it is the ultimate rejection. And it shows a certain confidence about you that is probably not easily broken because you can live life without one of them clinging to you. You can go about your life. You're happy. You're accomplishing things. You're getting things done. You're surviving. That's one of the biggest things they don't like, the fact that you're able to actually survive without them. It's one of the reasons I think they're making home purchasing for single women so difficult. And I do believe they're doing it on purpose. I believe they are intentionally snatching homes off the closing table from women, jumping up the price, like doing whatever they can to shake it out of her hands, because they do not want women doing that. They don't want you buying your own home on your own without a husband, or at least without kids in tow. They'll sell you the house if you have kids, probably. But just to be single, because they know that is the number one thing you can do to leverage yourself against poverty. They know that. They know you securing a home in your name with a mortgage is one of the biggest leverage blocks that a woman can have or engage in. Because think about it, if you own your home and you meet a man and y'all hit it off and you like each other, start dating, maybe start talking about marriage, and then maybe y'all even move in together. I know some people would not do that. A lot of people do. They just go ahead and move in together. Well, let's take a look. If he moves in with her, he moved into her house. Even no matter how fair and equitable she tries to make it, he moved into her house. If she moves out of her house and they move into a place together, now she can rent out her house to someone else or Airbnb it, but she always has somewhere to go. She always has a place to go. Always. So if it doesn't work out, oh, honey, I'll just grab a little apartment. And then when my renters are through renting, I'll move back into my house. No biggie. You see? It's leverage. They don't want you to have leverage. The reason they belittle education, number one, is because they're ignorant as all hell. But number two, they belittle education because education is leverage. It's leverage. I am struggling through my master's degree right now, but I'm determined to get it because as many criticisms as I have for the school system, it is still a form of leverage. It's a form of leverage. It's not the world's greatest leverage, but it is a form of leverage. So they don't want you to have somewhere to run to. So let's say you move in with him. Let's say you move into his place. You keep your house though. Well, if it doesn't work out, you just move out of his place and go back to your house. And it's not that you couldn't do that with an apartment. You absolutely can. But there's just something different about owning a home. And I really believe this is why they block it from women the way that they do. Single women, they don't want that. They need you in the game. They need you participating. They need you to stay on the market. Even if, get this, even if you are a so-called low value woman, they still need you on the market because they look at you as someone to use. You are a resource nonetheless, even if you're not the high value woman that they seek. A low value woman is still a woman and she's still there for a resource. So they need you playing the game. They need you in the game. So let's continue.
So I talk about a man who can make some choices. So ladies, I don't know. And why we're on this is because you ladies women in general have been told the opposite. And that's where all this confusion is coming in. Y'all aren't getting the result. So I'll ask you a question before we run. If you're not getting back with your child's father, how do you think you can make your asset to the how do you think you can make your child an asset to the kind of man you want to marry?
So this is going to be the first time. This is where the conversation takes a really nasty turn. The whole conversation is really, really whack. And you can watch that in full. I'm not sure if the video is still up or not. It probably is, but I know it's been getting reported to high hell. But this is where the conversation starts to shift and turn. And I also want you to pay a lot of attention to her demeanor. Because when she first called in, and you can even see it in the thumbnail, I'll show you really quick. You see in the thumbnail here, her face is kind of happy. She's got a little bit of a smile. You can actually even see a bit of a smile in her eyes. She seems radiant, engaged. She's leaning forward. You know, she really came there with the most sincere of intentions. So I want you to hold this face in your mind because it is going to change and her whole countenance changes by the end of the phone call. So here's the first slide. Kevin says, how do you think you can make your child an asset to the kind of man you want to marry? This stage is called targeting the child. Perpetrators may target and exploit a child's perceived vulnerabilities, including emotional neediness, isolation, neglect, a chaotic home life, or lack of parental oversight, etc. Kevin demonstrates targeting the child by already being concerned about how the child, not the adult, will be an asset to him. He is also parentifying the child by expecting the child to be an asset to him, much like a parent is supposed to be an asset to a child. And when I was rewatching this, I thought to myself, he's behaving like a pimp. This is what a pimp would do. A pimp would be asking some woman, yeah, so that daughter of yours, that son of yours, how can they be an asset to me? Why should I take you on? How are your kids going to be an asset to me? In other words, what do they do? Can they work? Are they useful in some way? Hmm. So he is expressing interest in the child. The child. Note that he didn't ask her, how are you going to be an asset to me? Or how are you going to be an asset to the type of man that you would want to marry? What do you bring to the table is basically what he's asking her, which that's a whole separate conversation altogether. He's not worried about her, though. He's not worried about her. That's the first problem. He did not ask her, how are you going to be an asset to me or the man you would want to marry? How do you think you can make your child an asset to the kind of man you want to marry? Now, her response should have been, my child is not an asset to an adult. My child is not going to be an asset for anyone. I'm an asset to my child, and any man that I want to marry should be an asset to my child. How did my child come into this conversation? Why are you worried about my kid? We're not talking about my kid. Don't worry about my kid right now. We'll talk about that later when we talk about how we're going to blend the family, how we're going to handle discipline, how we're going to handle family time and all that stuff. But why are we talking about our child or my child so early on in this conversation? So that's red flag number one, that he brings up the child and is worried about how the child is going to be an asset. And he already knows that it's a little girl because she answered that question in the part of the interview that was not included in this video. He asked her something like, so do you have kids? She said, yes, I have one. I have a daughter. So he already knows it's a girl. So maybe I should have done the whole interview so you could see it. But my concern was you would lose interest if I included the first half of the video because it's literally so irrelevant to this. To this part right here, it matters not. It pales in comparison. But you're welcome to go view it. So let's continue.
Put her in classes, make sure she's smart.
Hold on now, I'm sorry. Okay, here we go.
How can I make my child an asset?
To the kind of man you would want to marry.
I feel like I would have to train her to be an asset, as in get her ready for life in general. Put her in classes, make sure she's smart, make sure she's not, put in that time to make her a better person.
So I was really disappointed that she actually answered this question. And the way she answered it was by, making sure she's smart, making sure she's in classes, making sure she's ready for life in general, which was not a bad answer. But that is a question that should not have been answered, period. It shouldn't have been answered. My child is not an asset to you. Why are you worried about my child being an asset to you? Like that we would have had to stop right there because I would have been very concerned that you're not asking me how I am going to be an asset to you. You're worried about my child. And look at his face. He's such an arrogant, smug son of a bitch. Let's go.
Correct.
And then said correct. Like, how very sad. We're discussing your child, and you're talking to this strange man, and he asks you, how are you going to make your child an asset to the man you want to marry? You answer by basically saying, making sure she's an all around good person. Correct? Like, what? Like, it's so sad, you guys, but this is what is happening. So many women defer to men like these. They defer to them. They look to them for guidance and instruction. And so many men lead them down a pathway of destruction because they don't trust their own inner voice anymore. They don't trust their voice. They don't trust their instinct. They don't trust their gut. They don't trust anything. They only trust men. And this is what men are doing with their leadership. This is what you do when you get a position of leadership. Look what you do.
I'm asking. No, I'm asking because
I'm just asking, am I right?
The question is how to make your child an asset to that man. That makes her an okay person. But how can your doubt? And this is a question also all women are going to have to answer for themselves. How are my children benefiting you as my husband?
And he doubles and triples down, if you'll notice. How are my children benefiting you as my husband? Wow. Almost like this is the farm, like we're back on the farm. Chat says she should have said, my child has nothing to do with us. Predator, absolutely. Back in the day, people actually had kids to help like work on the farm and stuff. So back in the day, if a man, I guess, was taking on a widow, it's still an inappropriate question, but it would have more validity. You'd be like, well, my son's real good with horses, and my daughter knows how to sew, and my other son knows how to till the field and plant potato crops and harvest them. And my other daughter, she's real good with the cows, and she knows how to milk them and stuff. So we could really be a big help on your farm, sir. We could be a big old help, big old help. Oh, yeah. And my youngest daughter, well, she can't really walk yet, but once she can walk, I'll make sure that she can clean so she can at least keep the house clean. So you got a farm hand, someone to tend the cows, someone to till the field, someone to sew for you. You see what I mean? It's almost like a job interview. Haven't I told y'all before that they basically put you on a job interview? I am so serious. It's a job interview. And for this one, the only context I could see this would be relevant is on the farm. How are your children going to be an asset to me? In other words, what can they do? Can they mow the lawn? Can they plant the field? Can they till it up? Do they know how to harvest? Can they use a rake? Can they tend to the horses? What about the chicken coop? They know how to deal with chickens? They good with slaughtering? Can they slaughter a chicken? Quarter it up and fry it up? Can any of them cook? That question would only be relevant in a farmhand type situation, but understand what's being communicated. I don't want you for you. I don't really like you. I like you for your children's use value, not even yours. He's not even worried about you. He has bypassed you completely and worried about your children's use value. Yes, it is very sick. It's incredibly sick. That's why we've been reporting him left and right. We will not tolerate online grooming schools. We will not. These are open online grooming schools. And I hope you guys have been getting busy in their comment sections too. I hope you're not just reading and scrolling. I hope you're reading, getting triggered, and leaving comments to let these people in support of him know that they're going to be on the FBI's watch list too. I have a feeling the FBI is watching all of these people because I think there's a lot of unsolved crimes out there. And when they sit back in their rooms and they start to piece it all together, I think they're starting to identify a thread, because the thing about it is like this: crime is driven by something that is occurring in a person's mind, period. No matter what the crime ends up being, it started off in that person's mind. So if you can trace the mental thread that led someone to a certain act, you may be able to prevent those acts in the future if you can stop these threads from being woven. The issue is this has been going on for so long and for so many years, it has now compounded itself. Kind of like how they're worried about AI or machine learning becoming sentient. This monster has become sentient. It is aware of itself now. And I don't know what they're going to do because I don't think this is free speech. I don't think psychological manipulation is free speech. I don't think teaching other people, but in particular other young men, how to be predators is free speech. Because if this is okay, then they need to allow pretty much all content, then, including scammers. If people want to come online and teach you how to scam on YouTube, let them. And every other type of criminal in between. Because what's the difference? Honestly, what's the difference? Like there's certain type of content that's not allowed on YouTube, other type, and this is not on YouTube. This was actually on Instagram. Instagram is almost worse. Instagram is like 10 times worse. But anyway, if you're allowed to psychologically manipulate and groom people online to the point where it translates into real world harm for women and children, then you might as well allow it all. Just let it be a free for all. Just let it be the mess that it is. And let people pick and choose what they want to see. But otherwise, if you're going to restrict some content, then this needs to be included in it. I don't even think they have a category for this yet. Psychological manipulation and grooming. And really, I don't know if I should say this because the algorithm may not like it. I'll spell it EXPLOITATION space OF space MINORS is what it is, because that's what you're trying to do. You're targeting her kid. You're worried about her kid, but it gets much worse. I'm sure those of you watching already know that. But those of you who maybe this is the first time you've seen this, it actually gets worse. Okay. So let's continue.
I never thought about that.
Well,
You never thought about that because who would be thinking about that? How could I make my child an asset to this man? Most people are trying to make their children assets to society, period. Just generalized, decent, good citizens, period. Most people are not trying to make their children assets for men. And y'all wonder why these kids continue to go missing, why these kids continue to get hurt, why every other day they're putting out an Amber Alert. You wonder because out there, there's people who believe children are supposed to be assets to them. Here's another way of looking at it. Some people have kids just to put them on social media and try to make them social media superstars. Literally, that was the express purpose for them having kids. And when the one kid gets too old or they start to lose their little star power, they have another one and start the process over again for social media clout and fame. So those are people who are thinking of their children as assets. That's another way to look at it. So let us continue.
and that's the
What
problem.
would you suggest? I'm just wondering because
I would say it's going to be extremely difficult.
Now, I want you to notice he doesn't actually answer the question. And I thought this was a good question because whether or not she realized it, it forced him to at least attempt to provide the answer to what that question will be. Well, Kevin, tell us, how can children be an asset to you? What is your vision of an asset? Talk to us. But notice he doesn't actually answer the question.
But what I would suggest is women who actually think about it from the man's side, understanding that my child today is a liability because it costs.
So here's an example of word salad and gaslighting. She says, well, what would you suggest? In other words, give me an example. And he said his answer to give me an example was, well, I'd say it's going to be hard because women who can put themselves in the mindset of a man understand that my child is a liability because it costs. What? Look at her face. She looks confused because that wasn't an answer. So Once again, are you suggesting that I just get rid of the kid? Should I just have not had the kid? So then I should have had an abortion. But then this crew, strangely, y'all, for a crew that hates children so much, that says they don't want to be step parents, they hate paying child support, they also hate abortion. They hate the idea of abortion. They hate the fact that abortion is available. They are some of the main ones championing these anti-abortion laws that are getting passed in different states around the country. It's men like Kevin. They are walking contradictions. They are confused little demons. Confused little demons. They absolutely hate parenthood and the state of parenthood, motherhood in particular, but also fatherhood. Don't want to be stepdaddies, don't want to take care of their own kids, but they also absolutely hate the idea of abortion. So, what does that tell you? That tells you then that what they really want is for the woman to suffer. They want you to struggle with those kids. They want you to suffer with those children. To them, an abortion is like a way out of your suffering. And that was never part of the plan, darling. You were supposed to be saddled down with those kids and irrevocably financially doomed as a result. That's what was supposed to happen. So when you opt out, it's like you threw their plans all off. Sometimes it brings up the Bible verse, see, the devil has come, but just to seek, kill, and destroy, something to that effect. And I feel like the devil's representatives are here. They have landed, honey. And this is what they're trying to do. Let me get the exact quote. Steal, kill, and destroy. That's what it is. Steal, kill, and destroy. That's all they want. To steal, to kill, and to destroy. That's all they get off on. They don't get off on giving. They don't get off on giving life. And they don't get off on building, which would be the opposite of stealing, killing, and destroying. They don't get off on those things. That's lame to them. It's boring to them. To them, stealing, killing, and destroying is the way of life. And they do it in all kinds of different ways. Okay, I will. Chat says, catching up now. Please do a video on the singularity. I surely will. I surely will. And that will occur on my other channel, A Deeper PTE, sometime in the near future. All right. But let's continue. So he just hit her with some word salad and a little bit of gaslighting because he really didn't answer her question.
So number one, is she well-mannered, well-behaved, smart, taken care of? Does she understand? And do I really believe that you're going to come second to my husband?
So here's our next slide. Kevin says, does she understand? And do I really believe that you're going to come second to my husband? In this stage, the groomer forms a romantic relationship with the parent or caretaker in order to gain access to the child. There are also elements of maintaining control, where Kevin attempts to establish himself as primary in the mother's mind to train her to disregard her child and her child's needs. And the way that I know this at this stage in the video is because I watched the whole thing all the way through. So what you will discover as the video goes on is the sole focus basically becomes about how this woman would react if he got accused of looking at his daughter coming out of the shower. So that's why this is the stage where he's trying to form that romantic relationship. And at the same time, he is trying to teach you and make sure you understand and make sure your child understands that she comes first. Excuse me. Oh, wow. She comes second. What was I thinking? So in other words, great. You taught her how to read, write, and spell. You taught her manners and good behavior, and she's polite, and that's wonderful. But does she know that she's second to me? Does she know that she's second in command? Not even command. Does she know that she's just second in your mind? So here I am, a brand new person. And here's this child who you got pregnant with, watched your body grow for 9 and sometimes 10 months, gave birth to the child, held that little baby in your hands, and you've been with that child every single day of their life ever since. And somehow that is supposed to run secondary to this new man that you brought in the house. But here's the problem: a lot of times that does happen. A lot of times that's exactly what happens. Mommy gets remarried, stepdaddy comes in and essentially terrorizes the kids because he wants to be king. He wants to be God. He wants to know that he can walk into any room and command it, including a room that's already been established many years prior. He wants to know that he is going to be King Kong in that environment and in that atmosphere. And he wants to know that the woman will kowtow. I think, is it kowtow or kowtow? I always mess it up. I think it's kowtow. Or is it kowtow? I don't know. He wants to know that the woman will basically relent to him always, and always believe him first, put him first. Basically, just disregard your kids, ignore them. They don't matter anymore, basically. That's what he wants to say. Hey, I'm here now. Your kids don't matter anymore. So stop being nice to them. Stop paying attention to them. Stop being all concerned and having all this weird protective instinct. They don't matter anymore. I'm here. I'm here now. So they are so insecure and so jealous that this is also the same reason why a lot of times biological fathers get jealous of newborns, you guys. They get jealous of newborns. And a lot of women get cheated on in this phase also, whether or not you know that, ladies. Right as you have the baby, right after you have the baby, and probably about, I would say, 6 weeks. I'll say the 2 months following the birth of your child is one of the highest periods of you getting cheated on throughout your whole entire relationship. One of the highest likelihoods of you getting cheated on. And it has very little to do with sex. Has a lot to do with sex, sure, because you're healing. I don't know, just had a baby. So your body is healing. All kinds of things are resetting, going back in place, and the doctor doesn't recommend it. It's not just about that, though. It's also about the fact that he has now witnessed you become completely consumed with someone else. And it doesn't really matter that the someone else is his child. It does not matter that the someone else is you guys' new baby. A new life has been born. And the amazingness of that and the incredible experience of it all, none of that matters. All that matters is now your attention has shifted away from him onto the baby, which leads me to believe a lot of these men really are like operating on some sort of animal instinct, like the brain stem, and that's it. And I say that because a lot of people, for example, who have pets, in particular dogs, get very worried when they're going to bring home a new baby because they're afraid the dog is going to be jealous and upset that the parents aren't paying as much attention to it anymore. Now, often that does not happen. Often what happens is the dog moves in and becomes protective of the baby. So I think that's really cute when that happens, when it's safe, like the dog doesn't attack people trying to get close to the baby, but like the dog will go sit in the nursery when the baby's asleep and just kind of stay on guard. So it works out more often than it doesn't. But there are animals who get jealous, you guys. When I brought my puppy home, after having it been just myself and my two cats for so many years, one of my cats got flat out jealous. She would not come downstairs for a week. And at first I thought it was because she was scared, but then I realized she's not scared of this dog. She's jealous. She was completely jealous. Now, when she sees me talking and playing with the puppy, she gets jealous. She wants me to stop because that's her puppy. Do you understand? It's not it's not my dog anymore. It's hers. So she gets jealous and wants me to leave her alone when I'm petting her and messing with her and stuff. So it's just the dynamics are there. But my point is they behave like animals. They behave like human beings who have no capacity toward evolution. Human beings who have no capability of thinking in an abstract way, thinking in a complex way, they certainly have. He tells her later in this video she has no empathy for men. He has no empathy, period. Period. And a lot of his followers don't either. They do not have the capacity for empathy. And that is truly what makes them so dangerous. They don't have the capacity to feel or display empathy towards other people. And that's why they're so sick. They truly act like they are missing something upstairs. All the cards aren't there. Something didn't finish building in their process. And I don't know what caused that stunted growth. I don't know if it's the lead exposure. I don't know if it's something in the water. I don't know if it's something all babies have to go through right after they're born. Whole bunch of things that go into the skin and deliver certain products. I don't know if it's that. I don't know what's going on, y'all. But we're not dealing with fully functional human beings. We're not. We're dealing with humans whose computers have been broken. And I don't mean that in the way people usually mean it, like, oh, he's so broken. Oh, she's so broken. No, I mean literally broken. Like the computer got dropped in water. That's what I mean. And then you took it out, you let it dry out, you plugged it in, and it's like the screen will turn on and you can type a couple of letters and then that's it. It's literally broken. Something's wrong. But let's continue.
Is my husband going to come first? Or is it we're a package deal? If you're a package deal, that's no deal. I'll be honest, it's a package deal, that's no deal because
If you're a package deal, that's no deal. So here's where I would have interjected and said, so Kevin, what should I do? Should I just get rid of my child? Should I give her up for adoption? What are you suggesting I do here?
let's say you and I were to get married, you got a daughter, right?
Mm-hmm.
And let's say we have 2 kids together.
Mm-hmm.
And your child is 5. So 10 years from now, your daughter comes home and said, Kevin touched you, looked at me getting out of the shower.
I want you to look at his face. That's the face of evil right there. Rubbing his chin, kind of looking down his nose a little bit, very arrogant posture.
What happens next?
So this is going to be one of the most triggering questions throughout the whole entire thing. He said, so 10 years from now, your daughter comes home and says, Kevin looked at me getting out of the shower. What happens next? So I want to point out a couple things here. First, he has now shifted the example from this hypothetical husband to him. I think that's very important. And I think that's very, very telling. Because remember, when the example started off, he said the type of man you want to marry, your future husband, blah, blah, blah. Now here, he actually shifts it over to himself. And he has made himself the center of the analogy now. So it's almost like he has pulled her into it as if this is his woman, almost as if this is a woman he's seriously considering dating, and he's grilling her live on the air for everyone to see. So he's taken the example from this hypothetical abstract husband to now him. He's personalized it, basically. Very telling. He made himself the center of the example. And let me give you another example of that. And some of you have experienced this before. I'll just make it real basic and simple so it'll work. So picture a man and a woman talking. And the man asked the woman, what would you do if a man bought you a dozen roses for no reason? And she'd be like, really? No reason at all? I just get a dozen roses? I mean, that's real sweet. I guess I would say thank you. That's very nice. And he goes, okay. And he goes, what would you do if I bought you a dozen roses for no reason? You see how it changes the whole dynamic of the conversation? At first, we were talking about just this hypothetical person who doesn't exist. Now we're talking about me and you. You see how it changed it? Why? Because the man probably is thinking about buying her a dozen roses, and she just wants to know, he wants to know how she would react to that. I guess to see whether or not he should waste his money. But it also puts you on the spot in a very weird way, because now we're not talking about someone else. Now we're talking about you. This is all important. Yeah, he's telling on himself. Let's continue. This stage is called sexualizing the relationship, where once emotional dependence and trust have been built, the perpetrator progressively sexualizes the relationship. Groomers often move from non sexual touching to accidental sexual touching. It can happen during play, so the child may not even identify it as purposeful. Kevin makes the dramatic jump from the child being an asset to setting up a hypothetical scenario in which he is accused of inappropriate sexual contact and conduct. What makes this so disturbing is he has sexualized the relationship before he has even met the child. So I thought this was so important, because what he basically proposed is a hypothetical accidental scenario. Like, I accidentally looked at her getting out of the shower. Even though he didn't say that, he's trying to make it seem innocent. And more than that, how specific. That's how you know when something else is on someone's mind. When they give something super specific, a very specific example. Because understand, he could have just said, so what happens if that same child accused me of looking at her coming out of the shower, which is still a weird example. The fact that his mind went there first or at all tells everything about what's on your mind, what you think about doing, the different scenarios you found yourself in, the different scenarios your viewers have probably found themselves in. The fact that this is the first example he brings up. I don't know who I was talking to, but someone said he would never have done that with a man. He never would have asked a man. So, man, tell me, all right, so we friends, we homies, we've been homies for a long time. So let's say 10 years from now, your daughter, when I was over one day, we were watching the game. And then maybe you went to the store real quick and came back. I don't know. And your daughter says, I looked at her coming out of the shower. What you gonna do, bro? Bro would probably lay you out. He would level you. He would put you on the floor for even proposing such a thing, for even suggesting such a thing. Like, why are you even thinking about my child in that way? Why are you even thinking up that scenario? He would never try a man like that, because a man would perceive that as an automatic and instant threat. And he would probably level him right there on the spot if they were in person together. You know what I mean? But anyway, he gives the very specific 10 years from now, which is just bizarre, that 10 years. And he maintains that theme as well. Your daughter comes home and says, Kevin looked at me out of the shower. And that Freudian slip is not lost on me either. We all heard it. He makes a lot of Freudian slips. Just like when he Freudian slipped and said he was talking to men, he said, I understand the urge to be with men, fellas. I get it. Our women are not giving us what we need, or something like that. I'm paraphrasing, but that's what he said. Some of you have heard it for yourselves. That's what came out of the man's mouth. And what his cleanup crew did was come in and say, he meant be with other women. That's what he meant to say. He meant to say, I understand the urge to be with other women because our women aren't giving us what we need. That's what he meant to say, but it's absolutely not what he said. And he didn't bother to correct himself either. He didn't. Like, I often hear myself when I misspeak, and I try to correct it every time. I don't have a perfect record, but I'm probably sitting at like 98, 99%. When I hear myself say something wrong, I'm like, oh, my bad. That's not what I meant. But he literally said it. It just rolled off his tongue. He said, I understand the urge to be with other men, fellas. I do. Our women aren't giving us what we need. Kevin. Oh, Kevin. There is something about Kevin. Okay. So he's projecting far into the future, not thinking about, to me, a more logical question at this point would have been, what if your child and I simply don't get along? What if she doesn't like me and I don't like her? What if discipline becomes an issue? How should we handle that? What if you think she's old enough for a boyfriend, but I don't agree? How should we handle that? What if she starts to fail or flunk out in school? How should we handle that? These are the issues that parents think about when they're trying to blend a family. How are we going to get along? How am I going to get along with her dad? Because earlier in the video that got clipped, she does mention the child's father. She actually spoke highly of him, for the most part. And so it's not like he's AWOL, he's around. So how are myself and the child's father going to get along in the future? This is what non-predators think about. Those are the types of things people who aren't predators think about. But predators are always trying to position themselves relative to you and relative to your children. And that's exactly what he did here. And I thought it was so strange that he put himself in the scenario for this one, not this hypothetical husband. Okay. So let's continue.
The relationship would have to end.
Huh?
That's not something the relationship would end immediately.
So I was proud of her here because her first instinct is that basically I would have to protect my kids. The relationship would have to end. Now, the reason I don't think she said right here that she would need to investigate the claim, that she would have to talk to her child and then talk to you. And then, you know what I mean? The reason I don't think she did that is because if you watch the clip straight through, which I can't really play it straight through, you will see that he led her here. He literally walked her into that conclusion. That's exactly what you're supposed to say, because Kevin basically proposes it as if it's true. He never said, let's say your daughter falsely accuses me of looking at her coming out of the shower. And I never did. I didn't have anything to do with that, but you don't know that yet. What is your reaction? Still a creepy, weird example. This conversation actually shouldn't even be happening because it should have ended at the asset question. But the fact that it didn't allowed it to continue on to here. So she didn't really have a chance to respond because he really only gave her one side of the scenario, which is this is a true scenario. And I have proof of that coming up later. This happened. She tells you, now what do? Her motherly instincts kick in. Let's watch what happens next.
Because your daughter said I looked at her getting out of the shower.
Why would that person even be close to the bathroom to see her?
And she has another pretty good response where she says, why would that person even be close to the bathroom to see her? Which is a good point. It's something I hadn't even thought about. When people are taking showers, generally they are in a bathroom with a door closed. I don't know a whole lot of people who shower with the door open unless it's just like husband and wife or a couple. And you just don't care because y'all are a couple. So who cares? But generally, especially young people who feel insecure and just, I don't know, people don't like to be looked at naked, are going to close the door when they're showering. So why would you even be in the vicinity to see her? Great question. Great motherly question. You see? So it's a good question, but let's watch how he responds.
Mm-hmm. That would be the thing. You have to defend your seed. You have to defend your child.
Mm-hmm. But you also remember you got two of my kids.
Mm-hmm.
Oh man! Oh my God! I think a slide comes up after this. Yeah, it does. Oh God! Focus PTE. You can do it. Here we go. So she says, why would you even be in the vicinity to see her? That's the whole thing about it. You have to protect your kids. And he, with a lot of sass in his voice, goes, but see, that's the thing you have to remember. You got two of my kids. Because you may have forgotten at this point in the scenario that he said, hypothetically, you and I get married and we have two kids of our own. He said that at the start of the scenario, but you may have forgotten that piece at this point, because it doesn't matter. The reason that you've forgotten about the other two kids is because now your whole instinct is on protect mode. The relationship would have to end because, once again, he has never set the scenario up as if it's not true. He never even gave her that option. He basically put it forth as if it was true. So if it's true, yeah, the relationship has to end. But what he's basically asking her is, how could you do that knowing you have two kids that belong to us? So you would ruin our whole relationship just because I looked at my daughter coming out the shower? Like, it's absolutely sick. It's insane. That's why we've been reporting him left and right. Like, oh my God. So the slide says, but you also remember you got two of my kids. This response is part of the maintaining control phase, where Kevin reminds the mother that she cannot end the relationship because she has two of his kids. The child in the hypothetical shower scenario is hers, but there are also two children that are his in the hypothetical scenario. In this stage, groomers use emotional manipulation, threats, and secrecy to keep the abuse going. And that's exactly what's happening here. He's preparing to threaten her. It's coming up. He's going to threaten her. And I'm stunned that that's where his mind went next. He's upset that she would end the relationship knowing they have two kids of their own. It never occurs to him that that doesn't matter. You violated my child. Relationship over. Interaction done. And I'm probably going to call the police as well. I'm going to call the police on you. So, because it sounds like you need to be in jail. But he's not worried about the seriousness of what has taken place or the allegation. He's only concerned with her reaction. This is high level grooming, okay? This is grooming.
So that means I should never listen to it. That means I should avoid women like you, because off the rip, your desire to defend your child blew up. You got two of my kids, and off rip, your protective instinct says fuck everything, including those other two kids.
I don't know why people think this man is smart. He's really not. He can't speak either. He's incredibly illiterate, as I pointed out in a later slide. But there's a reason for that. We'll get to that. I'm getting ahead of myself. He's stumbling, bumbling all over his words because he knows he's ridiculous, but he's trying to like twist and manipulate on the spot. And the thing about lies is you kind of have to remember them. So that gets challenging. So he's fallen all over himself. But at the end of that, he says, and off the rip, your protective instinct says F everything, including those two other kids. Well, no, that's not. Well, let me read the slide, then let me comment. In a mediocre work of gaslighting, Kevin uses fear, shame, and guilt to ridicule a mother's protective instinct. He is essentially trying to train her out of it and train her to doubt her children. He has also skipped several steps in between and leapt to the final conclusion, which is ending the relationship, to which he is now responding to and shaming her for. Note the shift in her demeanor at this point of the video as well. There is a clear moral conflict happening within her, but she is too afraid to challenge him. And what I get when I read her energy and when I read her vibe at this point in the conversation, she's been through this before. You can completely tell either she went through it herself or she went through it with her current child. You can 100% see it in her face. Like she looked like she wanted to cry because it was almost like she was speaking to her abuser. It's like she was having a one-on-one conversation with her abuser. It's so sad. It's sad, but pay attention to her whole essence after this. Remember how she started. Let me show you how she started, just to remind you. This is kind of how she started. There's a bit of sadness there, but as with all women, we know how to tuck our sadness and just push through it. But there's a touch of sadness in her eyes, but she's still overall happy to be there. But I want you to pay attention to her demeanor coming up. Now, let me comment on this. Says, and off the rip, your protective instinct says F everything, including those two other kids. No, it's not what she said. It's actually not what she said. So he's putting words in her mouth and trying to make her believe that she would just throw away the two other kids and what, run with the one kid? You don't think women want all of their kids? You don't think a woman would try to protect the other two kids from you also? Oh, you thought me leaving meant me and my kid only. No, I meant myself and all of them. We're all going. You're a pedophile creep. And I don't want any of my children around you. But you see how he tried to twist it and make it seem like she's saying, oh, I would just disregard our kids, which is basically your tether. Those two other kids are the tether and the rope that keeps you in the relationship with him. I told you guys before, they like to trap women with babies, but they also really kind of want those kids to themselves. They don't want you around, as we're going to find out here shortly. Let's take a look.
What would you tell our two children?
Hold on. I think I overshot it just a little bit. I'm sorry. There we go. All right, here we go.
Understood.
Do you?
No, I understand.
You said the relationship would have to end. So what would you tell our two children?
Daddy's a creep, pedo who needs to be under the jail, and we got to go. No, I probably wouldn't say it like that, but you can just see the sadness in her face, man. And she was just like, understood. No, I understand. Like, this is happening all over the country. It's happening all over the world. Women are being mentally groomed and mentally abused in this way. And they don't have anybody to challenge their thought process. You all have got to train yourselves to keep some people around you who you don't necessarily agree with 100%. Because when you only keep people around you who agree with you 100%, they will never challenge your thoughts. They will never challenge your thought process. And they will never care enough about you to challenge you a little bit and say, girl, like, no, why would you agree with that? Why would you say, well, yeah, I understand. No, I get it. No, you know what I mean? Like, she doesn't have any friends, man. That's what I'm saying. She doesn't have any strong friends in her life to offer up a different perspective, to challenge this. Because if this is all she's getting, because in the start of the video that's not featured, she actually mentions that she watches his show all the time. And I don't know if she said she's a huge fan, but she said, I watch your content a lot and I respect it. And all Kevin does is trash women. That's it. So how could you watch content where you are continuously being dogged out and think that it has any value? It's just the saddest thing. Like it is a gaping hole in terms of education that is needed. A gaping hole. And these men have very loud voices on these platforms, and their propaganda spreads far and wide. And quite personally, I believe that's on purpose and for a reason. And I believe they are being promoted for a reason. But I won't get into all that over here. But I do believe there is an agenda behind all of this. But the fact that he does not horrify her is the problem. It's almost like if you were to walk up on a very poisonous snake outside, but you just go, "Aw, snaky." And you go to try to pick it up. You're not horrified by it. So for example, children a lot of times are not horrified by the things adults are horrified for or by. Children will walk right up to a bug and pick it up with their hands. They're not horrified by it, even though maybe they should be, because maybe that bug is poisonous. You see what I mean? They're not horrified by it, though. And as a result of not being horrified by it, they allow it to be too close to them. It's like, I have got to reinstall your horror. Or as I've said it before, I have got to find a way to reinstall your silent scream. because I've been put off by Kevin from day one. Can't stand him, never watch his content. The only thing I ever see are when other people are analyzing clips that he's done. But I find him dry, boring, unintelligent, misogynistic, and now a groomer and a predator. And I can't imagine how much other content is out there like this that we just don't know about because we don't watch him. But this goes to show that you have to keep an eye on your enemies, man. You have to. You have to keep some kind of eye on them because when you don't, this is what's going on behind the scenes. So let's read the slide. The slide says, "What would you tell our two children?" While still arguing a hypothetical scenario, Kevin asks what the mother would tell the two children they have together. What is never answered in the scenario is whether or not the accusation is true. However, this does not matter to Kevin because he is in the middle of gaslighting and manipulating the interviewee. He is also approaching it as if it were a true scenario. It appears the answer he is seeking is, "I wouldn't." He would want his two children to be lied to regarding the truth of why mommy and daddy split up. Telling the truth is not an option. This is part of the maintaining control phase. And I find it so interesting that he's more concerned with what you're going to tell his two children, not the children. Not what would you tell the children. He don't care about the girl he just got through looking at. He's worried about what you would tell his kids. In other words, are you going to sour my good name to my children? Are you really going to do that? You're going to tarnish my good name with my kids? So, my response at this point, assuming the conversation went this far, which it shouldn't have, would have been, well, Kevin, is it true? Because right now you're approaching this scenario as if it's true. So, Kevin, is it true? Because that determines everything. Like, is this a true accusation? Because if it's not true and my daughter has lied, then we have bigger problems, you know? Because she would have to know that the implications from a lie like that could be very far reaching, including jail. So if my daughter has lied about something like this, I would have to wonder why. And we might need to enroll in some psychotherapy to work it out. But as statistics and studies have shown, children are typically not lying about this stuff. And most of them are so scared to come forward and say anything at all that they don't oftentimes. But the ones that do get the courage up to tell what has happened to them and then to be met with someone who basically either doesn't believe it or disregards them, like the damage can last for a lifetime. And it has. So what would you tell our two children? Well, Kevin, is it true? You got to let me know that. But again, he has positioned this whole entire thing as if it is true. And you'll see why here in a minute. He actually kind of confirms that.
My
But
future
what I'm
husband.
telling
That's a tough situation.
no, you said the relationship would have to end. So
But
I need,
it would have to end because
but what
I
would you
would
tell?
listen to any of my kids. If I have three kids, one by someone else and two by my
But
future
what I'm telling
husband.
you, what I'm saying was what we tell our two children.
So he kind of cut her off and interrupted her a little bit, which is to be expected by rude narcissists. But she said, I would listen to any of my children. So basically, she's trying to let him know that it's not about the fact that it's my kid or your kid or our kids. I would listen to any of my kids. And look at her. Look at her face. Like something is happening psychologically. And she is in a deep, severe moral conflict right now. And I'm telling you, I just feel like this is like re traumatizing her, basically. There's some trauma there and it's bringing it back up. She's had this conversation before. I'm telling you, she has. I can see it in her face.
Your half sister. stated this happened and this is not a comfortable situation and we have to part ways.
Period. Your half sister stated what happened. It's not a comfortable situation and we have to part ways. And I actually think that's a very mature way to approach it. Like, look at the worry. Like, there's worry in her face, there's fear, there's concern, there's a little bit of horror. I see a little bit of horror there. Like, she knows she's not in the presence of a good man. She knows that. She knows, like she knows. And I think she's shocked because this is not why she called in, y'all, at all. This is not the reason for the phone call. I actually kind of recommend watching the whole thing just so you can see how he steered it in this direction for some odd reason. Like, for no reason at all, he steered the conversation in this direction. Why? Because it's what's on the top of his demonic agenda. Now we got to get the women to stop being so damn protective of the kids. God, they're getting on our nerves and really getting in the way.
You get the fuck out. You can get the fuck out.
Now let's talk about this.
Because I'm not the one paying the bills.
Sorry, let me back it up. I want y'all to hear this whole thing straight through.
That's a tough situation.
No, you said the relationship would have to end. So
but it would have to end because
but what would you tell
any of my kids? If I had 3 kids, 1 by someone else and 2 by my future
But what I'm
husband,
telling you, what I'm saying is what we tell our 2 children.
Your half sister stated this happened and this is not a comfortable situation and we have to part ways.
You get the fuck out. You can get the fuck out.
Because I'm not the one paying the bills.
No, you know, because you're not taking my kids.
Oh, man. So much with this part right here. So first of all, Kevin is now in a full argument with some woman from his past. I don't know who it is, ex-wife, ex-girlfriend, but Kevin is now officially in a full-scale argument with a woman from his past. And this happens a lot with this crew. They are so fixated, so obsessed, so entangled with some situation. It lives in their mind rent-free. And any opportunity they get to argue with this woman, they take it. And you would say, PTE, but that's not her. She is the representative of the woman that he's angry at. Because how dare you speak to, number one, a woman that way who's been really nice. Like, she's been super sweet. This woman has not been rude, aggressive. She hasn't raised her voice, not once. She hasn't been nasty. She hasn't been an asshole like I would be towards him. She hasn't given him any reason to start cursing at her and telling her, you can get the fuck out. Excuse me? And the saddest thing I think I've ever seen is when she said, because I'm not the one paying the bills. Like that, those are fighting words. You're not going to kick me out and keep my kids, honey. You're not. But that's exactly what his plan is. So let's take a look here. Kevin says, no, you get the F out because you're not taking my kids. This is a combination of maintaining control, filling a need, targeting child, and isolating the child. Understand what has just happened here. A child has made an accusation against an adult, stating the adult has been inappropriate with her. Since he never said it's not true, it must be. Therefore, the mother reacts by ending the relationship. Kevin then follows up with the threat that it is she who must leave, not him. He feels a need by paying all of the bills, which likely means she doesn't work, targets the child, sexualizes the relationship, gets caught, then tries to maintain control by stating it would be the mother who would have to get out of the home, which is also what isolates the kids because now the kids are alone with him. So in his mind, he can get accused of an allegation, doesn't care whether or not it's true, just the simple fact that you believed it and are acting in a way that's protected towards your children is enough for him to kick you out of your shared home and keep the kids with him, just like he wanted from the very beginning. I don't know which episode it was or even what channel, but I said a lot of them act actually want to be dads. They just don't want you in the picture. They think they can be a better mother than you. And they absolutely want to be. They want to be the literal head of the household. And typically, there's only one head on a body. They want to be the head and have everyone else worship them. That's what they want, you guys. And if the mom is there, if a woman is there, you are the counterbalance to that energy, that leadership energy. You're going to have a say so, basically, because you gave birth to these kids. They are one half your children. But he doesn't see it that way. And he would just as soon kick you out for believing your child. And honestly think any woman in her right mind is going to just leave her kids there like, well, all right, guys, well, it was a lot of fun. And really enjoyed being your mom for a couple of years. You were a great kid. I really liked you a lot. You, so sweet, so kind, really kind-hearted child that you are. And you, I can't wait to see what you're going to grow up to become. You're a really amazing child. But thanks, everybody. It was fun being your mom. I'm going to pack up now and I'm going to leave. And daddy's going to raise you now because mommy doesn't know how to believe daddy first. So I'll be leaving now. Bye. Like, how insane. But I was just very, very taken aback by how instantly his whole mood, they say we're emotional, but literally he has been the most emotional one throughout this whole conversation. He started cursing for no reason, cursing at her, basically threatening her. No, you could get the fuck out. Like, wow, where's all this hostility coming from? Like, we're literally just having a conversation with a scenario that you brought up, and now you're mad. Like, literally, they can make themselves angry with their own artificial, hypothetical scenarios. These men are completely insane, you guys. And part of what's making them so insane is listening to content like Kevin Samuels. It's making them worse and worse by the day if you can't tell that from the news. Absolutely. Chat says this is a murderer in the making, if he hasn't killed already. Because what's to stop you? You don't see a woman's humanity. You don't have any empathy for her. You're psychotic, very entitled. And it appears that if people don't serve you, you have no problem disposing of them, but he has an ego on top of that. See, he can't just go on about his business. He has to punish her in some way. You understand? They desperately want to punish the woman. For what? I'm not sure. But punishment is what they want from you, and it's what they want to do to you. They want to punish you almost for being born a woman. It's like, how dare you be born a woman? How dare you? You must suffer for that. You have to pay for that. You were born a girl? Oh, you got to pay for that.
Mm-hmm.
See, that's what I mean. Y'all act like y'all got too much power.
Y'all act like y'all got too much power. Never forget the scenario he just put forth. The scenario he put forth is that 10 years from now, when her daughter comes to her and says, Kevin looked at me, touched me getting out of the shower, what's your reaction? She says the relationship would end. And now he's saying, see, y'all act like you got too much power. Like, what? Like, I really want a criminal psychologist to analyze this. I need a criminal psychologist to analyze this. Or one of those people who works on the teams that set and trap people who are being inappropriate with minors online. Like, they set up fake profiles, convince them to come meet them somewhere, then they arrest them. I need them to criminally profile this man. I need them to criminally profile this video. So you're trying to tell me that I think I have power and control issues for removing my children from the presence of a very sick man. See, what a lot of people don't know, the Black community knows it, but people outside of the Black community may not know this. So one of the number one narratives is Black men were run out of the house. Black men were put out of the house. XYZ took Black men out the house, right? The feds took Black men out of the home. You know, drugs took Black men out of the home. But above all, the woman kicked or took Black men out of the home. But what y'all don't know is that this is what's actually going on behind closed doors. These are the conversations that the women are having with these men. And this is why a lot of these men get put out of the house for behavior just like this, you guys. But they will never tell you that. They'll say, oh, she's just tripping and just wants the white man and the federal government to take care of her and acting all independent like she don't need no man. I'm telling you, ladies, if he can't speak, if he speaks like, never mind, I can't say it that way. Let me find a different way to say it. If he speaks like an outdated human being, like a human being who was around when language was being developed, so it was very rudimentary and rough and hadn't been smoothed out yet. If he speaks like that, I'm telling you, you got problems. I know y'all don't want to believe that. I know you strongly want to believe. Otherwise, that character can't possibly be linked to speech, reading, and writing. I'm telling you it is, and I'll prove it to you one day. It is the start of your issues because it means their mind is not straight. Their mind is not clear because their words are not clear. And if your words are not clear, your thoughts are not clear. And if your thoughts are not clear, your actions are not clear. I'm telling you. But anyway, she put me at the house because she just wants the federal government to take care of her. Blah, blah, blah. But what he won't tell you is that he got caught looking at his daughter coming out of the shower. Or even that he just loves to bring up hypothetical conversations like these to the point where the woman finally got uncomfortable. I would be so uncomfortable if either my husband or the man I was dealing with ever posed a hypothetical situation to me like this out of the blue with no provocation. Meaning we weren't like talking about it already, or it shows up on like a movie or a TV show, or it happened to one of his friends, or there would have to be a strong, compelling reason for why we're even having this conversation. Because the day you bring up something like this to me, hypothetically, it's over. Why would your mind even be on that? Why would you be worried about that? But anyway, pay attention. Let's go.
It's not power. I'm really,
First of
really
all, you didn't
humble.
even. First off, you didn't even. I just said if she said it, you didn't
Yeah.
even. You didn't even. You didn't even question whether or not the claim was there.
So now he's making it her fault for her reaction by doing something that he should have actually done in the very beginning, which was say, I've been falsely accused of looking at my daughter coming out of the shower. And she tells you 10 years from now, how do you react? Or just giving the conversation an opportunity to evolve so she could think, because trust me, that threw her off. I've seen the video so many times now that the shock factor has worn off a little bit. But when I first saw it, I was stunned. I was speechless. And I think the same thing had happened to her. Like, what? It's almost like you want to go, what? Excuse me? Why would you even bring that up? But see, she knows if she reacts like that, he's instantly going to label her argumentative, attitudinal. He's going to tell her this is Black women's problem and probably hang up on her. Because the appropriate response would have been for him to have gotten gone off on. But she didn't want to be labeled as one of those types of women. So she's sweet, she's humble, she's submissive. She's not going to challenge him. And this is how a lot of these women end up in these situations. They just go along with it, man. They just go along with it. So he says, I just said if she said it, you didn't even question whether or not the claim was there. If you've been paying attention to the flow of this conversation, you will note he never actually gave her a chance to ask this question. Kevin does what a lot of men in this space do, which is lead and steer the conversation in the way they want it to go, which is a form of manipulation. You have to be quick on your feet to catch and call out these tactics, which this caller was not. Either that or she was so stunned by the scenario, she couldn't speak or think, which is another manipulation tactic. So I'll give you another example of how this would work. Let's say you and your husband are in the kitchen. Y'all are just making food, chit-chatting about your day, whatever. Then all of a sudden, out of the blue, your husband says to you, hey, what if you caught me in the bed with another man? And you would be like, I'm sorry, what? What if you caught me in the bed with another man? What would you do? Like most of you probably would not have the wherewithal unless you know he's joking. But if he doesn't appear to be joking with you, you're probably going to be temporarily speechless because it catches you off guard. It's a left field, like a left hook, and you weren't ready for it. So you don't even really have time to formulate your thoughts. There's so many different thoughts to have. So you may not always say the right thing in that moment. Like I said in the slide, you have to be quick on your feet to catch that kind of stuff. And if you're not even looking for it, well, you're going to miss it. And she did, but I still think she did pretty good for what was happening in that moment. I think she did the best that she could have done. Yeah, major red flags. Yep, chat says yes, that's a sign. Out of the blue anger and threats. Like this anger is coming from nowhere. This woman hasn't even challenged him. Like I would have challenged him. I I believe I could get Kevin Samuels to either rage quit or hang up on me, one or the other. And I actually think I can make Kevin Samuels rage quit. But I would first have to I would have to get him to take the call first and foremost. And I would have to just basically do what I did with that scammer, which is remain very calm and ask questions. And I just believe I could exercise the demon right out of him. I really do believe I could. I do it all the time by mistake. So if I'm doing it on purpose, I think I could pull it off. Let's keep going.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's your child. That's why I'm saying your child can never be an asset to anybody because that's the bomb that's always there.
Kevin says, your child can never be an asset to anybody because that's the bomb that is always there. Kevin is implying that a woman's child is not an asset because the child can always end the relationship by accusing the man of sexual impropriety. The fact that this is what Kevin is worried about versus them simply not getting along or other behavioral issues is very telling. Kevin essentially needs to know that he is safe with she and her children, that anything he does will be covered, and most important, you will never tell. You will keep his secrets no matter what, and under no circumstances will you end the relationship. This is part of maintaining control. So basically, what he's advocating for, or what he's trying to explain to her, is a woman with children is a major liability, or as he put it, a bomb basically waiting to go off because all it takes is one small accusation and the whole relationship ends. But what makes this so predatory is that most normal, healthy, well adjusted people, but any well adjusted man, this is not his concern at all. It may never even cross his mind. What if I get falsely accused? That might not even cross his mind. It wouldn't cross mine. If I was a woman getting ready to marry a single dad who had kids, at no point in time would it cross my mind, gee whiz, I hope I don't get falsely accused of something sexual. Like my mind, like why would I even be thinking that? Like why would my mind even be on that? It would never cross my mind. My only concern would be, I really, really hope we can blend and hit it off as a family and get along. I hope they like me. I hope they accept me. And, I hope they don't hate me, basically. Like, I'm not their mom. So, I hope I can figure it out and figure out the balance of everything to keep everyone happy, basically. That's where my mind is centering around. How can I be the best stepmother I can possibly be? Not, oh boy, I hope I don't get accused someday. Like what? And then telling her your child's not an asset because you're too protective over your child, basically. You're too protective. And that child could end us at any time. And therefore, you're a major liability. That's what he's worried about, y'all. That's what he's preaching, and that's what he's spreading out in the social media streets. So, like, it's really stunning. Let's continue.
Okay.
Because, and what the fuck, what could a man do about that? I could provide everything. We could have children, and automatically you're gonna jump off rip, go for your child. So don't ask me to treat your child like it's biologically mine when you be willing to blow up my biological children's shit for something else.
So he's arguing with somebody. I don't know who he's in his head. He's having this argument with. I'm thinking ex-wife, maybe ex-girlfriend. This is when his illiteracy really came out. He's just stumped. My child. If I could provide everything. We could have children. Automatically, you're gonna jump off the rip. So don't ask me to treat your child like it's biologically mine when you be to blow up my children's. Kevin is extremely inarticulate, and part of what contributes to this is the fact that he's working so many manipulative scenarios at once. Here, he tries to help her see that her natural instinct toward her children is a problem. It never occurs to him that if the accusation is true, she would be ending the relationship to protect all three of her children, not just hers alone. But again, the validity of the accusation is not the issue, nor up for discussion. He is solely concerned with her reaction, which he deems incorrect. Now, I also wanted to speak on this part where he says, so don't ask me to treat your child like it's biologically mine. When did she ask him to do that? When has she asked him to do anything? That's how I know he's arguing with someone in his head, because this woman never said anything to that effect. She never said anything like that. Like, Kevin, I'm going to need you to treat my children like they're yours. She never said that, ever. But he brings it up as if she did. So don't ask me to treat your child like it's biologically mine when you'd be willing to blow up my children's shit for something else. As if that something else is nothing, by the way. Never forget what the scenario at hand is. He got caught looking at his daughter coming out the shower, and he's just calling that something else. But I really want to know what he means by, don't ask me to treat your child like it's biologically mine. What does that mean? Are you planning on being mean to my kid? Are you planning on being cold to my kid? Are you planning on not sharing resources like equally with my kid? Or what does that mean? Don't ask me to treat your child like it's biologically mine. What does that mean? So that means you have different treatment planned for my kid versus our kids together. Maybe this is why so many children feel left out, mistreated, and abused when mom gets remarried, because a lot of women do subscribe to this and allow this man to basically dog her child out in favor of the children that they have together. He's basically saying, I need you to act like that never happened. That kid of yours that you had all willy-nilly because you were all out there in the streets and you had a kid. Never mind that you could actually be a divorcee. You could be a single mother who was once married, had her baby in the marriage, then you divorced. Now you're a single mom with kids. They never bring up that scenario, by the way. But anyway, it's almost like, how dare you have children before you met me? How dare you? So now, because I'm doing you a favor of accepting you with your broken self, you need to kind of act like that kid never happened. You need to act like that's a mistake that occurred sometime in the past. And all I really need from you is to do your best to hurry up and get it out the house. Because I really hate that you did that. How could you do this to me? How could you have a child before you met me? And now you want me to treat your child like it's mine, biologically mine. Nah. So in order for you to show your loyalty to me, I need you to show your disloyalty to this child, which in a way is a form of showing disloyalty to that child's father also. Absolutely. The chat says all of his language suggests separation or a disconnect from the child. Absolutely. That's what he's telling her to do. I need you to disconnect from this child. You love it too much. You're too protective over it. It reminds me of the other guy that you were with because you had sex before. Can't believe you did that either, but whatever. all these little reminders, I'm not feeling it. So the only way that you can show your loyalty to me is by showing your disloyalty to the child. And a lot of women actually do. They do. They take the man's side every time, every time. And it's very, very, very sad. And oftentimes, when she doesn't take his side, he will end the relationship. He can try to keep the kids if he wants to, but it usually doesn't work because most judges can see right through all this stuff. Thank God. Hallelujah. A good portion of the legal system still can see this stuff. Okay. And they know that these are dangerous men. And part of the reason they know that is because they've had an opportunity to hear this logic over and over and over again in the courtroom, in custody battle cases and criminal cases and all kinds of cases. They've had the opportunity to hear it. They've heard it all before, basically. So they see you coming from a mile away, basically. But these men are so arrogant and cocky, they think they can snow anybody, including a judge. And usually they're not successful. This is why the women get awarded custody more often than not, you guys. This is why. Because even so called well put together men who may have stable jobs, stable careers, no real criminal record, not a real one anyway, they are mentally ill like this, you guys. They think like this. So they take that same mental illness into the courtroom and it gets shot down and they get mad because the judge can see that you're an abusive person, that you're trying to get this woman to basically throw her child away. Like, okay, I'm here now. You can get rid of your kid. It would be the equivalent, and I do believe that this happens. I just don't know it for a fact, but it would be the equivalent of you meeting someone new. Y'all start to hit it off. You let him come over one day. He goes, "Oh, you have pets." I mean, maybe you would have told him that already or whatever, but he finally gets to meet your pets. And he basically tells you, "Well, listen, I don't really like pets. So if you want us to be together, you got to get rid of them. They got to go." Now, I hope y'all wouldn't go for that. I hope y'all would walk him out within the same 5 minutes that he made that statement. But it's the equivalent, like, hey, I don't really care what you had going on prior to me. I'm here now. So I'm going to need you to go ahead and get rid of them. And in some criminal cases, this is exactly what happens, you guys. I don't want to be too graphic, but in some criminal cases, a man meets a vulnerable single mother who's highly susceptible to this type of programming. And he basically convinces her to get rid of her kid. It has happened in criminal cases before. He just tells her, like, the only way you can really prove your loyalty to me is to get rid of the child. And they do, together usually. It's very sad. This issue is very problematic. This is why they've landed on the radar of the Secret Service, the Department of Homeland Security, and the FBI. Because a society cannot thrive with super sick individuals like this in it. It can't. Like, it's not like you're just mean. You know what I mean? Like you're just a mean person. But other than that, your meanness doesn't really have an impact. We're not dealing with people who are just mean. We are dealing with people who have the capability of brainwashing others into action. That's what we're dealing with. Let's continue.
And kids can say anything.
They can, but you have to protect your kids at all costs.
Then
She's absolutely correct. He said, so, kids can say anything. She said they can, but you have to protect your kids at all costs. Absolutely. I would rather protect and be wrong than not protect and be right.
And you have to talk.
Then no.
Mm-hmm.
Then leave. No. See, I want you to understand that you have no empathy for men. It's about you and your kid.
Boy, the gaslighting is something serious, baby. He's gaslighting the hell out of her. She said, you have to protect your kids at all costs, and that's why you have to talk. And he goes, no, and leave. And see, I'm trying to get you to understand that you have no empathy for men. It's just about you and your kid. God, help us, God. Help us, God. Please help us. So, we are supposed to be walking around here with our hearts, minds, wallets, legs, and everything else just wide open for men. Like, he acts like her being protective over her child is the most unnatural thing on planet Earth, when truly it is the most natural thing on planet Earth. A mother protecting her children is the most natural thing on planet Earth. It is one of the most basic instincts. And he is literally trying to coach her out of her basic motherly instinct. The slide says, Kevin says, I want you to understand that you have no empathy for men. It's about you and your kid. Throughout this entire conversation, Kevin never addresses the seriousness of the allegations he's brought up in the hypothetical situation. He is only concerned with her reaction to the accusation. He is seeking protection from the accusation he seems to know is coming in the future. And he needs to know she won't leave once she is finally told. He is seeking advanced protection from something coming in the future, like a safety net. He needs to know the safety net is there. Like, he needs to know that he's covered, basically. That's why they look for certain types of women, man. They're looking for the chick who automatically makes all these excuses for men in particular, who believes lies easily and believes lies readily, who doesn't challenge authority, would never dream of challenging authority, never dream of it. This is going to be the woman who gets taken advantage of in the workplace a lot because she never says no. Like, they look for women like that. And when they are vetting you or grooming you, they're typically asking you questions, usually not this extreme, but typically what you'll get when they are operating in the higher levels of their toxicity. So right now, Kevin is in the lower levels of toxicity, but there's levels to this, and they tend to stay up high because they know if they revealed to you what was really on their mind, you would run in the opposite direction. They know that. They have enough demonic instinct to know if I tell her what I'm really thinking, she's probably going to run in the other direction. So let me tone it down a little bit. But basically, what they will typically ask you in the higher level are things like, so let's say you and me are married, and I go out of town with the boys one weekend, and you know what I'm saying, I get into a little something something with just some random chick that I met out there. Means nothing to me. She means nothing to me. I don't even know her name. I don't even know her phone number. But oh yeah, okay, we slept together at the hotel. You gonna break up our marriage over that? Those are the types of questions that they ask you. If I cheated on you, are you going to leave? And they try to qualify it by saying it was a one off. I was just out of town with the boys. Some random chick, she means nothing to me, don't know her name or phone number. But yeah, I slept with her. You gonna break up our whole marriage over that? They will ask you questions like that in the early phases of the relationship because they need to see what your tolerance levels are. And saying that out loud helps me understand why I'm single, honey, because I answer their question, but they are not expecting the answer that I give them. I cannot, or I can tell you with certainty that they are not expecting the answers that I give them. I tell them the truth and I tell them exactly what they don't want to hear. I'm like, oh, it's over, honey. Wow. You would break up a whole marriage over one cheating incident? I'm like, yes, we're married. You're out here sleeping with strangers and presumably coming home to me. And you probably did it unprotected because that's what y'all do for some weird reason. And think that I'd be okay with that. What if you got her pregnant? Oh man, I ain't gonna get her pregnant. What if you got her pregnant though? Man, it wouldn't be my baby. How do you know that? We wouldn't know that till the DNA is run. Yeah, I'm not going through that. Nope. You're not going to put me through that. So if I found out about it, yeah, the marriage is probably going to be over, probably. Yeah. Something's wrong. Something's amiss. Or I like to reverse it on them. Okay, I go out of town with the girls one weekend and I sleep with some random guy. How do you feel about that? Oh, no, you ain't doing that. No, yeah. Then they get all big and scary and mad. Now they got all the energy. Now you got all the energy in the world. That's pretty much my answer. If he posed that hypothetical question to me, I would basically tell him, yes, the relationship is going to come to an end, mainly because number one, I can't trust you. Number two, you're out here sleeping with strangers then coming home to me. Number three, you're running the risk of getting her pregnant and ending up on child support while we're married. And that's number four. If we don't have kids yet, you get some rando pregnant. Now I got to explain to my kids in the future why they have a half brother or half sister that's the same age or older than they are. And we've been married for longer than that. That's a lot of conversations to have. I'm just not doing it. And they hear that and they're basically like, well, can't do this one. Yet it's funny how they don't like being cheated on. It's the end of their world. It completely devastates them. And the thing is, it devastates us too. But they don't think that we have emotions. They don't think that we feel anything. So they think we're supposed to hear about their cheating and be like, oh, honey, that's no biggie. Did you have fun? Was she hot? Was she smoking hot? Was she sexy? Was she better than me? That's what they really want. Oh my God, you cheated on me? Oh my God, was she better than me? Oh honey, I'll do whatever. I'll do anything to be like the best in your eyes again. I'm so sorry that you cheated on me. Is it my cooking? Do I not cook enough for you? Is there not enough variety? Is the house not clean enough? I'm not thin enough. I need to get back into the gym more. Okay, I need to work out a little bit more. I need to switch up my recipes. Maybe I should switch up my hairstyle a little bit. This nail color is kind of sucky. Let me get on different nail polish and maybe that'll keep them home. That's what they want. They want the groveling. They want you to apologize for them cheating on you. That's what they want. So let's continue.
I'm somebody's child.
Yeah.
What about those children we have together? Ma'am, you're not.
He hit her with some emotional manipulation, talking about, I'm somebody's child. Kevin, you are somebody's child, somebody's sick, twisted little child. Who birthed you? Who raised you, boy? We need to drag her out here. Who gave birth to this nightmare? And who seeded it? We need both of y'all in court. The one who raised this nightmare and the one who seeded it. Where did this disaster come from? Because good Lord, like this is what you unleashed on the world. This. And men tend to look like their mama. So I'm trying to figure out the space so I can see if I can figure out the mom. But I need to know who that daddy is too. Who seeded, who sparked it, and who birthed it. Because this right here is scary. And this is why I was talking about demonic portals on my other channel, A Deeper PTE. When I posed the question, can we accidentally give birth to demons, or is this something that's genetic? I don't know, but one portaled in through that one. But he hits her with, I'm somebody's child. Well, were you somebody's child looking at someone else's child come out of the shower and you're an adult and they're a minor? And you actually slipped up and said touched. Then you cleaned it up and said looked at. So are you somebody's child who was touching or looking at someone else's child come out the shower? Because you being someone's child doesn't mean that you're not supposed to get in trouble. These men do not ever want to be held accountable for anything. It is terrifying. It's terrifying. They don't take responsibility for anything. They do not want to be held accountable for anything, not even violating you or your children. He wants you to think about the fact that he's somebody's child and how much you could be hurting him by breaking up the family and getting your kids away from him. You see how manipulative that is? How he's trying to play on her emotion. I'm somebody's child. Boy, you're like 50 years old. Yeah, he really wanted to say touched, but he realized how horrible that sounded, so he changed it to looked at, as if he would ever have an opportunity. You shouldn't see someone emerging from the shower. The door is supposed to be closed. What you doing in there?
Right in this.
Let me back it up just a little bit.
I'm somebody's child.
Yeah.
What about those children we have together? Ma'am, you're not right in this.
I thought this part was very interesting. He said, "Ma'am, you're not right in this." But as she said, as she's about to say, "I'm not debating you." Like, in other words, she wasn't arguing. Who's arguing? He was literally arguing with himself at this point. But it's like he is trying to goat her and pull her into this massive debate. And sis has already thrown in the towel. She's like, "Yeah, okay, okay, I understand." And anyone who knows, boy, I tell you, any woman with discernment knows where she's at right now. She's at a part where she basically just kind of wants the conversation to end. She's not going to put up a fight. And she has learned that just agreeing is safer and easier than trying to prove your point. So she's just kind of in the, okay, I understand. No, you're right. Yeah, you're right. No, I get it. No, you're completely correct. I get it. I understand. She's given up the fight because probably in her life at some point in time, it has been safer and easier to give up the fight than keep going. All right.
I'm not debating you. I
But,
understand where you're
yeah,
coming from.
we're debating the concept
Yeah,
that you
I
got to protect
understand.
your kids at all costs. So then you need to go be with your child's father, and y'all need to work that out so that can never come up.
God, these men are so stupid. They're so stupid. I love how he presented that to her as if it's something she had never thought of before. Oh, maybe I should just go be with my child's dad. So I don't have to worry about trying to date and remarry and step parents and him looking at my daughter coming out of the shower. So for me to avoid all of that, I should just be with my child's dad, as if it never occurred to her. I love it when people tell you things that they think had never occurred to them before. But anyway, he says, so you need to go be with your child's father and y'all need to work that out so it can never come up. He actually said that, but I accidentally made a typo, but it doesn't matter. That, it, same thing. What is the it Kevin hopes will never come up? Being accused of touching the child inappropriately or looking at the child coming out of the shower? Because this is the entire theme of the conversation and scenario. He has not wavered once. Keep in mind also that Kevin is the one who raised this major issue in the first place. Why is it such an issue? Has he been accused before? Multiple times? This top of the mind obsession and fixation speaks volumes for what Kevin is most concerned about. I just thought that was fascinating. Again, he actually said that. He said, so that can never come up. Well, what is the that? What is the that? What is the it that can never come up? And he's acting as if these issues don't occur in biological families as well. Oh, but he's going to do us a favor and he's actually going to raise that issue. He could have let the conversation drop at that point, but he decided that he's going to go ahead and take it to the biological. So let's take a listen.
Because
And sorry, before I let that play, who's to say that's not exactly what happened? Who's to say that's not the very reason that she's not with her child's father for this very reason? Let's continue.
because let's switch the situation. If I'm that child's biological father and she comes out of the shower and 10 years later, daddy looked at me a certain kind of way, and I'm her biological dad, then what do you say?
She's horrified at this point. She's gone from shock to horror, okay? And she should. Everyone should be horrified by this. The chat says, what was the caller's original question? In the original video, she actually called in. And I think her original question is, what is your opinion of women in the nightlife? Like bartenders and girls like that, basically. That was the original question. Literally. What is your opinion of women in the nightlife? Let me grab a quick drink. You guys, give me 1 second. I'll be right back. So this conversation has evolved from what is your opinion of women in the nightlife to if I'm the child's biological father and she comes out of the shower and 10 years later she says, Daddy looked at me a certain kind of way and I'm her biological dad, then what do you say? That's how we got all the way there from what is your opinion of women in the nightlife? Right. The chat says it's like, who wants to discuss pedophilia in this level of detail? Exactly. That's also what makes it so weird. Who wants to go like this in depth with the scenario and you're giving dates and situational aspects and 10 years later and daddy looked at me a certain kind of way and I'm her stepdaddy. Okay, well let's switch it up. Now he looked at me a certain kind of way and I'm her biological dad. Like how creepy are you? You're a creep. So the slide says Kevin actually found a way to make the situation worse by extending the hypothetical scenario to a biological father and daughter, as if that somehow makes it better. He is very focused on the mother's reaction to this accusation, almost as if he is making future plans. The fact that this is what he's worried about upon meeting a single mother helps give rise to the understanding of why so many kids are abused in the home at the hands of caregivers. The numbers are staggering, and many never tell, and this is why. Men who think like Kevin are leading the household, and women who believe them follow. Okay? So this man can't let it go. This is a perfect example of a top of the mind obsession. Right at the top of the mind. It's sitting right under the surface. Like it doesn't take much to get it to come up at all. And it's so deep in his psyche that now he's twisting the scenario and offering different versions of it just to see, does that change the way you feel? Okay, well, that was a stepdaddy. Well, let me try the biological. Does that change the way you feel? And it's just so sick. And people follow this man and they worship at this man's feet. They've made this man rich. And I'm really bothered at that. This is the society. This is what society is praising right now. Society is praising this right now. But he actually makes it sicker, more graphic, and more disgusting to get her reaction to see if that changes it at all. And let's see what she says.
See,
That was
but you notice how you couldn't pull rank on me?
So now we're worried about rank. In a peaceful conversation where she just called in, just as sweet as could be, it just said, what's your opinion of women in the nightlife? We've gone from women in the nightlife to how she can't pull rank on him because of the biological aspect. So this is what I mean by the entrapment, ladies. They want that cord pull, that permanent chain to you. Kevin says, notice how you couldn't pull rank on me. This is a crystal clear example of an attempt to maintain control. Kevin is more concerned about rank than the accusation itself. He cares not whether or not the accusation is true. He cares only that he maintains the power position in the situation. He wants the woman in a state of dependence, desperation, and powerlessness so he can do things without the fear of her sudden departure with the children. This is advanced grooming of the parent or caretaker. And I just thought of something when I was reading through this. Notice how he has not said, an accusation like that could destroy my life. An accusation like that could get me arrested. An accusation like that could have me thrown in jail. An accusation like that could ruin my reputation to where, even once it's proven not true, assuming it's not true, people will still look at me funny. That's the guy whose daughter accused him of looking at her coming out the shower. So how could you see what I mean? Like, he's not even concerned about that, you guys. The only thing he cares about is her reaction to the accusation. Do you see? Like, I wouldn't be surprised if he tried to get this woman's phone number after the show and he has continued grooming her since. I would not be surprised because, I mean, I'm reading a little bit something different from her energy, but she's a perfect candidate. She's a prime target. Perfect target. You won't challenge that. You won't push back. Very submissive, very quiet, very humble. Actually said, oh, okay, I guess I'd have to get out because I'm not paying the bills. Like, agreeing with him. You see? So she's a prime candidate. I know her DMs have been blowing up, but her DMs have only been blowing up with men who want to take advantage of her. We are trying to save a very specific population of women. We're trying to save all women, but there's a specific population we are targeting, and it is that population who goes along with this kind of stuff and then wonder why the man ends up getting arrested many years later for what he did to her kids behind closed doors. Boy, I have a story I could tell y'all, but let's just say I knew a girl whose father got caught being inappropriate with her. And it involved basically, like, among other things, cameras. So he installed cameras in very inconspicuous places, but not like a baby monitor type camera, like a I don't want you to know this camera is here type camera. That's all I'm going to say. He actually went to jail for that too. For I think 20 years, he went to jail for what he did to that girl. But the scariest part about that is that me and her used to hang out and he would be there. He'd be there. Sometimes her mom would be there. Sometimes he wouldn't. And he was the coolest guy. He was super cool, you know, real cool. Cool dad. I was stunned when I found out. And we were young. We were in middle school when all that happened. So it's real. So a lot of times when basically this crew of men gets mad anytime a new accusation is made in the media against a man, there's a reason women tend to side with the woman. And that's because so many of us have just seen it. We've seen it. We've lived it. We've been through it ourselves to some degree. So we know how you guys operate. We've lived it, but they disregard lived experience. It doesn't matter to them what you've seen and what you've gone through. That means nothing. You're supposed to disregard that. You're supposed to disregard all of your protective instincts, actually. It would be much preferred if you would go ahead and disregard all of your protective instincts. Chat says, pull rank. Does he think he's in the military? In his mind, honey, in his mind, he is the general, honey. And women and children need to fall in line immediately and automatically. So you know what else is ironic about this group? They always say women need to choose better when we end up accidentally choosing men like Kevin. But then it's like, you don't want us to vet you, though, because when we start vetting you, you get mad. When we start asking questions and challenging your thoughts and your thought process, you get angry and say we're not submissive. So they are walking contradictions. On the one hand, they say you should have chosen better. When you try to choose better, they get angry because you're vetting them, because you're supposed to assume that they are already perfect. Duh. They're already perfect. What could possibly be wrong with them? Let's continue.
You couldn't pull that. We got to separate.
Yes, I
You couldn't
could.
pull rank on me. You couldn't pull biological rank. You want to, but you're like, well, damn, it's his kid too.
It would have to be an end situation as well.
And you'd have to get the fuck
If she
out.
said that,
And
if she
you'd
said
have
that
to get out.
immediately,
And you'd have to get out.
understood. I completely understand that.
So the end would be for who? You'd be leaving.
Mm-hmm.
Do you see how ugly he's being with her for no reason? Like he is being so nasty with her as if this is his baby's mom or his wife or girlfriend. Like he's arguing with, this is very personal for him. And it's like he's mad. He's absolutely, she's upset and he's mad. And for what? This whole scenario is hypothetical. The whole scenario is hypothetical. It's not a real situation. But he is literally deep in his emotions right now, super angry about it, telling her she would have to get out. And I wonder what makes him think women with biological children with a man don't leave with the kids. It happens all the time. It's how y'all end up on child support. So it's like he believes though the biological tie is what would prevent her from doing it. You see? Let's continue.
But that's not what you're talking about. You're talking about the end situation. I'd be leaving with my child.
I understand, Kevin.
And I want everybody in the audience to understand this is why you don't deal with women with children, because, especially in our community, there is no blending families when this kind of stuff comes up.
Chat says he wanted her to beg to stay. Absolutely. He wanted her to be like, no, no, no. It wouldn't have to come to that. Like, we could work it out. We could talk it out. But she was just like, okay, you know what? Oh my God. You just helped me understand what set him off. She didn't fight for the relationship. She didn't fight to stay in the house. She just said, okay, that's what did it. Oh my God. That's what actually set him off. She did not beg to stay. She quite simply accepted her fate. And even though I think it's crazy that she would think about leaving without her kids, she didn't fight to stay. And that's absolutely not what they want. You're supposed to fight to stay, honey. Yeah, he was upset that she did not weaken and beg him to stay. He's a demon. He's a pure demon. The slide says Kevin said, there's no blending families when this kind of stuff comes up. You would have to wonder how many times this has been an issue for Kevin and or his followers to where it has become his number one concern, being accused of sexual misconduct with one of the children. So he, in essence, is coaching his followers to avoid women with children so she can't pull rank when issues such as these arise. Not if, when. Conversely, he is demonstrating how and why so many men trap women by getting them pregnant. It's so she can't leave or can't leave with his children easily. He basically wants to be able to have legal access to you in order to terrorize you for the rest of your natural life, honey. For the 18 years guaranteed where the child is a minor, but even beyond that, oh, you think those phone calls and stuff are going to stop? No, he's going to bother you for the rest of your life. You have a kid with him. And it's like, yes, ha, 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 got me one. Now I get to bug her for the rest of her life. Now I get to bug her. She's not even my wife. Now I get to bug her and follow her around. Now I get to bug her, follow her around town. Why? Because you're the mother of my kid. And I want to know what my kid did. I want to know where my kid went. Now I get to follow you for the rest of your life. That's what they want, honey. They want, basically, it's a form of legal stalking. They want to be able to legally stalk you for the rest of your life, even when your kid is grown, because he can just call you and be like, hey, I can't reach our son. Have you talked to him? Yeah, I talked to him earlier today. Oh, well, where is he? Like basically to be able to compel you to speak to him. See, that was always one of my greatest fears, which is why I always went out of my way to prevent pregnancies from taking place, because I was like, oh my God. And you might say, well, PTE, why would you even deal with a man who you wouldn't want to but like talk to the rest of your life? Or, the thought of him bugging you the rest of your life is not something that appeals to you. And it's because a lot of times I think women think he's young, so he's still learning and growing and changing. But I think what happens over the course of the relationship is you realize, youth or not, he's not learning, he's not growing, he's not changing. So basically, you come to discover that he's a nightmare. It is not always evident at first, and many of them hide it very well. So if he's in the hiding phase or the mask phase, and you all are indeed young, say for example in college, you're like, well, we're in college, and I can't really expect him to be on his best adult male behavior. He'll grow and change once he graduates, gets a real job, and things start to level out in his brain and he becomes an adult. It's only later that you discover that that belief is not true. That he's a terrorist today, he'll be a terrorist tomorrow, and he'll be a terrorist 20 years from now. But it takes us a minute to discover that. And so that's when you would go, oh God, the thought of being attached to this terrorist for the rest of my life is scary. It's quite the risk. The chat says, I've always had a great fear for being tied to a man forever. It's quite the risk. It is really a risk for a woman these days. It really is. Because you don't know who he's going to become ultimately. Some of them don't become nightmares until after their mothers die. And the reason is because they were only behaving for their mom. They were only putting on their best behavior and being on their best behavior for their mother. So once their mom dies, they become the nightmares that they really are. So some of you don't even know you have nightmare men yet. His mom is still alive. Because basically he wants good reports to go back to his mother. He wants good reports coming from you, good reports coming from the kids, and good reports basically coming from the community to go back to the one woman he does fear, which is his mother. But once his mom dies and he goes through that mental collapse, a different man might emerge on the other side of that. I'm telling you. That's a different show, different conversation. I'm telling y'all. For some men who have solid character, their character is not going to change after their mother passes away. Men who have been faking it their whole lives will be 100% different people after their moms die, because their mother was the only one they were ever truly afraid of. And his reputation in her eyes was very important. So now that she's dead, they don't believe in heaven or afterlife or anything. So they're not worried about her being able to see him. So that's when their true selves come out. Let's continue.
Because single mothers are too used to pulling rank. This is why single mothers are potentially so dangerous, because you're not used to having to actually split the responsibility. It's your child. And that's fine. But then why should any man have to deal with that?
Understood.
So I feel sorry for you ladies, but this is the positions a lot of women put themselves in, and then we're supposed to do what about it? Because if it was biologically my child, you said it would be over. Why would you not question your child? Why would you not question your dad? Why would you not just say, girl, whatever, that's your daddy?
Like how you manage to make the situation worse. I'm floored at the ability to actually make this hole that he's walked himself into already deeper. But he actually made the hole deeper. And before I read the slide, he said to her, why would you not question your child? Then he follows that up with, why would you not say, girl, whatever, that's your daddy? Wow, man. Wow. So this is proof that the accusation is true. He was looking at the child inappropriately while she was coming out of the shower. Asking her to disregard the accusation with girl, whatever, that's your D, means he absolutely did it. But it was harmless, and she should know that, as should you. In other words, yes, I looked at my daughter, but it's my daughter. This implies that he desires the biological connection in order to excuse away countless inappropriate behaviors. If you pay close attention, the mother looks sick to her stomach at this point. So basically, he's told you right here that it's actually true. And the fact that he would ask a woman to write off her child's concerns with girl, whatever, that's your deity. Are you starting to see how all this mistreatment is occurring in these homes? Are you starting to see why the numbers are so high? Are you starting to see why so many kids are harmed, go missing every year? Human trafficking is a real issue. Are you starting to see how that happens? Because you have men like Kevin Samuels training, leading up his own household, but he's single, by the way, doing all this marriage coaching, but he's single, training other men to train women to disregard their children's concerns. Disregard. Oh, yes, his deity. Girl, whatever, that's your deity. That's exactly how he said it. Girl, whatever, that's your deity. Training these women, excuse me, to disregard their children's concerns, look the other way. And it's ironic that he says to her, why wouldn't you question your child? But then turns around and says, why wouldn't you just tell her, girl, whatever, that's your deity? So basically, question the child, but don't question what actually. Now he's confusing me. What am I trying to say? Basically, question the child, but don't question me. So automatically take my side. So in other words, he really doesn't want an investigation. He just wants a one-sided outcome, which is if the child comes to you and says this happens, you need to respond to her by saying, girl, whatever, that's your deity. Your deity. Don't get me started, y'all. Don't get me started. Like, can you believe what you're hearing? Like, why would you not? Like, you can tell. He said she has no empathy for men. He has no empathy for women. Like, just write it off. Just throw it out the window. You know, your child comes to you and tells you something very serious, and you're supposed to look at her and go, girl, whatever, that's your deity. Or as happens a lot, I know at least in the Black community, sometimes the child gets blamed for it. So sometimes the child is told, well, you shouldn't be walking around here in them little shorts anyway. Well, you know what your body looks like now. You need to cover up some more. Or when it gets really bad, this tends to happen in the deep South, but they'll be like, well, you getting fast anyway. Or sometimes the mother gets jealous, angry, and turns on the daughter. So the daughter goes to her, says, either daddy or stepdaddy was looking at me or whatever. And she gets jealous because in her sick, twisted mind, that means that the man is more interested in her child than her. Like there's a lot of dysfunction going on right now, you guys. Lots of dysfunction. Absolutely. The chat says there's no way I would disregard what my child said. Like, how could you? Especially if it comes out of the blue 10 years later. Because that's even more reason for concern. Like everything seems to have been going well. We seem to be getting along just fine. Then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, 10 years later, my child comes to me and tells me this. I don't know if you'll live to see tomorrow, sir. I don't know if you'll make it through the night. We may not even have to get the police. And well, I guess the police will eventually be involved. But my point is, I don't know that if you're going to see the sunrise, I might black out. I might blank out because I think all parents, and I could be wrong about this, y'all correct me, But I think all parents kind of know when their child is lying. They can tell. You can just tell. Now, I could be wrong. I don't know. But that's what I think, that parents know when their kid is lying and when their kid is telling the truth. Not to say that kids don't lie, but I just feel that as a mother or as any parent, but as a mom, you would just know, like, if your kid comes to you out of the blue 10 years later with something like that, oh man, you might not want to come home, sir. Talking about, you're going to put me out. You get out. You get out before I get a hold of you. I would call him and say, you have 15 minutes to remove as many of your worldly possessions as you possibly can. And if you're not gone in those 15 minutes, I don't know if you're going to see tomorrow. Click. Well, before I hung up, I would say the clock starts now. Click. Like, unbelievable. Asking this woman to just write it off, write the accusation off. This is what he's training her to do. So the idiots that follow him are going to take this out into the world. And this is how they're going to start vetting women. And they will vet using this exact same example. And I hope that they do, because it will help women see these creeps faster. It'll help you see the creep faster than if he hit you with, so what if your man asked you to cook every night of the week? Well, what if I asked you to cook every night of the week? So that's how they typically groom. But I feel like Kevin is going to embolden them to groom in this way. And that's perfect, because now we can start to identify you freaks and you creeps and you weirdos. So thanks, Kevin. You're going to get a lot of men locked up behind this. A lot of men are going to end up going to jail behind this stuff right here. Let's continue, including you.
Why would you blow up a marriage? Why would you just believe her?
Like, can you believe what you're hearing? Why would you blow up a marriage? Why would you just believe her? In other words, why would you be a parent? Why would you be a mom? It's not possible at all that this girl, this woman that's on the screen, has gone through something identical in her childhood. And what if that's the answer she wanted to give? Why would you just believe her? Because I've been through it myself. But she can't say that, or she doesn't want to say that, because she's seen it live in action. She's seen it in real time. She's seen how y'all move, how you operate, how you think. So she already knows. Why would I just believe her? Because this is the same song and dance. Y'all aren't original, so you run the same program over and over and over again, because this is the same pattern I've seen before. What do you mean? But at this point, she's so disgusted, y'all. I don't know if you can tell, but she is essentially looking through him at this point. Right. The chat says he blew up a marriage by grooming the girl, asking her, why would you blow up a marriage? Why would you look at my daughter inappropriately? See, these are the responses, but they would call that argumentative, but it's a valid response. Why would you blow up our marriage? Why would you be looking at my daughter? You got 3 minutes before your options and opportunity to see the sun tomorrow are rapidly running out. Get out of my face, get out of my house, get out of my presence, because I'm about to black. I'm about to black out on you. You need to get out. You need to go now. Get out now. But what an unbelievable question to ask. Why would you just believe her? Why would I believe you? I think she actually is getting ready to say that, because grown men lie too.
Why would I just believe my daughter?
Yeah, children lie.
Grown
Are you
men
kidding
lie
me?
too. Excuse me?
I said, look. And you said grown men lie.
Your phone is confusing.
Okay, you said grown men lie too. I said, she's, okay, and this is my point. And this is my point. We go all the way back to the club and the bartending. And that's why I mentioned your mentality is warped. You don't trust men.
Mm-hmm.
If you never knew what gaslighting was, you're watching it happen right now. He went from, why would you just believe her? She responded. He said, why would you just believe her? Children lie. She said, they do. And then she said, grown men lie too, which they do. And then he goes, see, this is what look. See, this goes back to the bar and the nightclub. Your mentality is warped. You don't trust men. And this whole conversation could have been ended by her simply asking, "Is it true, Kevin? Is that what you did? Did you look at my child or not? Is it true? Well, then what's to trust, honey?" Or to this, I also would have responded, "Kevin, you act like this never happens in real life, though. This happens every day in real life. So why would I automatically not trust her and trust you when I know that this happens in real life?" She was just, she couldn't do it though, y'all. I can tell like something has taken place in her life similar to that event to where she couldn't even speak because it's too much like talking to your abuser who's trying to justify their abuse to you, to your face. They're trying to justify it. And you just feel powerless to like say anything, which is exactly what happened. But she's doing a good job though still. I like the answer that she gave because grown men lie too. Yes, they do. They do lie. So let's read the slide. Kevin says, "And that's why I mentioned your mentality is warped. You don't trust men." So Kevin has come full circle, stating that she simply doesn't trust men and her mentality is warped because she said grown men lie too. Grown men lie too is not an inaccurate statement, but Kevin has attributed this belief to her lack of trust in men, not the truth of the statement or the truth of the accusation. Her belief that grown men lie too, which is less belief and more fact, is a true statement, but he has invalidated it by attributing it to her lack of trust in men. This is advanced grooming and advanced manipulation. Yes, trust is earned. Women not trusting has gotten a lot of them hurt throughout history, but also as of recent. Trying to look past all of the red flags because of some fairy tale you told yourself is getting a lot of women hurt. And so many men are being brought up to think this way, and big tech is enabling it. I don't know where this leaves us. All I know to do is teach, teach, teach until I run out of breath and hope and pray to God I can save at least one. That's all I can do because they are coming on full force. So all I can do is try to counter all of the madness that they're putting out there into the world. So anyway, we've gone from why would you just believe her, girl, that's just your daddy, to your mentality is warped and you don't trust men. Well, men have not exactly demonstrated a track record of trustworthiness. Trust has to be earned. And he just wants it given. So that's a big red flag. If they want automatic trust without earning it, run in the opposite direction. And this actually holds true for the corporate workplace as well. It's actually one of their biggest problems. They want full loyalty out of you on day one, but they haven't done anything to demonstrate why. Like basically, you're both still getting to know each other. Like the most loyalty we owe each other is that I'm going to show up, do the job that I was hired for, and I'm trusting you to pay me for that. That is the extent of our loyalty at first. Then over time, as we get to observe each other, we determine whether or not this is a person or a company that I should be giving a little bit more trust and loyalty to because they are earning it. But that's not what they want. Narcissists want to skip that part. They want to skip the earning part and go straight to you just believe me. You just believe me. You just trust me. This is why a lot of scammers get really mad when you put up resistance because you're not supposed to ask questions. You're not supposed to challenge them. You're not supposed to push back. You are supposed to accept and blindly trust off rip. Don't ask, what are you asking all these questions for? You're supposed to trust me. Yes, I know we just met, but do I look like I would lie to you? And it's a sincere question. It's like, yeah, you do look like you would lie to me. That's how I would answer that question. Yeah, you do look like you would lie. You do. So let's continue.
But
See,
if I never brought the aspect of, would your sentiments be the same?
we'd have got there eventually because it's all ultimately going to come down to how you feel about men.
Mm-hmm.
So I wasn't sure what she meant here when she said, if I never brought that aspect up, would your sentiment still be the same? I don't know if she's referring to like the nightclub or nightlife, or she's referring to, I don't know what she's actually referring to here. And I never quite figured it out, but it doesn't matter because he wasn't going to answer her question fully anyway.
See, I'm always on task. You may not know why I'm asking what I'm asking, but the point of the matter is, whatever issue or whatever the way you look at men is just going to taint, it's going to color your perception of men throughout everything else.
Okay.
And it would be better for you to understand that and men to understand that and just leave each other alone because, man, do you think highly of men? Then
No.
go get a girlfriend.
This is always one of their go tos. Notice the answer is not just be single. Like, can I just be single? It's like you have to put me with somebody, either a high level man, a low level man, or a woman, but I got to be with somebody, right? Because the idea of me being single just kills you. And I love that. Knowing that it vexes your soul makes me want to do it more and makes me want to make sure you know about it too. Because I know it vexes you in a way that nothing else can. Like you just can't choose to be single. You have to pick someone, basically. It's almost like that's their number one assignment. No matter what, make sure this woman has someone attached to her, sucking off of her. But anyway, notice how we've gone from this horrific accusation of a child against a parent to now she needs to get a girlfriend because she doesn't think highly of men. Well, why would I think highly of men when you're sitting here proposing the scenario of a man observing my child coming out of the shower? What's to think highly of? What's to think highly of? Do you feel like you have earned high accolades? Do you see how y'all act every day? I spend a lot of time in the news, just reading the different stories, seeing what all is going on. Men have lost their minds at large. And I don't know if it's the pandemic that did it. I don't know what's causing it or what's driving it. I think I do know though. Their supply is running out because with each passing day, women like myself and other YouTubers and other social media creators are ringing the alarm and raising the awareness every single day. And every day they're getting told no more. And with each passing no, it's driving them crazier and crazier and crazier. Y'all need to be shipped off to war. You do. I just feel like y'all are the lost army. You're the lost army. You are the lost soldiers who have supposed to have been in battle a long time ago. Very programmable, very obedient to authority, thinks in a black and white manner, doesn't really question authority, just blindly goes along with it, and can be easily incentivized with promises of things like women. So to recruit this group, all y'all would have to do is tell them that, yes, you're joining the military, but we're going to send you to a land where all the women are very submissive over there and they'll love you. And I'm telling you, they'll sign up by the thousands. They'll sign up by the hundreds of thousands with the promises of submissive women who don't talk back in the country that they're going to. And that's how you recruit, and that's how you get them up and get them out of here, honey. There's not going to be any other way.
That no.
But thing is, you're asking a man to be a provider, male, and this and that. You want a man to do what he's supposed to, and you don't even give men a baseline of respect.
He said, and you don't even give men a baseline of respect. What respect is left if a man has harmed your child? What baseline is there when he has crossed the ultimate line? Why is she being asked to trust someone she doesn't even know yet? Why is she being asked to take his word over her children's word at all times? This is the type of vetting groomers do to potential targets. If you ever find yourself in a line of questioning similar to Kevin's, you are being groomed. If you have children, you should be afraid and cease further communications with that man. And I'm so serious. He's grooming you. If you're getting questioned like this, you're being groomed. He says, and you don't even give men a baseline of respect, but understand the only scenario he's asked her about is what she would do if her daughter accused him of looking at her coming out the shower. He hasn't asked about the finances. He hasn't asked about decision making. He hasn't asked about any of those things that would require respect, or, how you handle conflict resolution, none of that, which would demonstrate respect. He's only concerned about her reaction and judging her whole outlook on men based on the fact that she would protect her kids in that moment without hesitation. And he's trying to tell her she doesn't give men a baseline of respect. Have men earned a baseline of respect? With this particular woman, probably not. She probably hasn't seen or been given a lot to respect. But understand that part of Kevin's job is to get you to understand that you are supposed to respect all men at all times, everywhere, any time of day. And the only time that you can put that rule to the side is if you have a husband, because then you have a man in your life all day, every day that you're bowing to, basically. But if you're not married, the requirement and the expectation is that you respect all men at all times, everywhere, any time of day, meaning basically you need to allow men to do what they want to do if you're not a married woman. Show respect, instant respect, show instant trust. Show all of those things. Don't question him. Don't ask all these questions. Don't try to vet him. Just open yourself up to him. This is part of what Kevin's job is. Part of Kevin's job is to get women to open themselves up to men and stop pushing them away so much and let it happen. Just let it happen, ladies. Let it happen. If a man has decided he wants to be with you, you need to let that man be with you. Why are you asking him about his job and stuff? Or if he's already in a relationship? He chose you. So you need to say yes. And it doesn't matter what you got going on. You're supposed to drop everything for him. This is part of what his job is. He's trying to groom the whole world. But, he's starting off with women. It's really sad, actually. Let's continue.
You say
I don't want to. I'm not going to argue with you, Kevin. I understand where you're coming from.
Well, I say, do you think highly of men?
And I'm working on my thought process of men. So I'm
That's
not
fair.
ready. I'm not.
That's fair.
Yeah, I'm
That's
not
fair.
ready for a marriage yet. I do have a lot of things to work on, and I do watch your videos a lot. I can take in what you're saying 110%. And
I get it. You're not being rude. I get it. But what I'm saying is, ultimately, you got to put yourself in a man's position. Even, let's say, when you're ready, when you're
Notice he doesn't have to put himself in a woman's position or empathize from the viewpoint of a woman. It's a woman's job to put herself in the man's position. That sounds a whole lot like Act Like a Lady, Think Like a Man, a book I started reviewing years ago. And then I stopped because it triggered me too badly. So I might need to actually finish that review. And a lot of you wanted me to, too. I just never did because it was just so upsetting. But I think I have the energy for it now. And I think I need to finish that. But that's what that sounds like. Act like a lady, think like a man. Think like me.
thought press is ready, you got to think of it this way. Why should I, as a man, risk a rehabbed woman?
He continues to degrade her, berate her, and he asks her, why should I, as a man, risk a rehabbed woman? See, they really think they're perfect, you guys. Kevin Samuels thinks he is perfect, honey. That picture that I show for the Sick and Dangerous Men series, let me see if I got it. Boom, right here. This is who they think they are, honey. They think they are little God kings. Please believe me when I tell you that. They believe that they are little gods, little God kings, to be specific. Kevin thinks he's perfect. He thinks he's without flaw. So when he asks her, why should I risk a rehabbed woman? What he's implying is I'm not broken. There's nothing wrong with me. There's something wrong with you because you have a child. So to them, having a child makes you damaged in a way. So why would we ever want to have kids for men who believe we are damaged after we do? We've damaged ourselves in a way that we can't come back from because we had a baby, or in particular, your baby. Now I'm damaged. Now I need rehab. They think they're little kings, y'all. They think they're little gods. Kevin, just the way he holds his face tells me how smug he is. He is so smug. I bet you he thinks he is. And look at his wall. Look at the picture on the back of his wall. What is that? A woman. So for all the hate and contempt he has for women, he has a cutout torso of a woman on the wall behind him. They worship, but they want worship. They want to be worshiped. And they think they are perfect and without flaw. And that's what kills me so much when 90% of them can't even read, write, speak, or spell. You can't do the first thing that was asked of you, which is simply learn language and learn how to communicate. You can't even do that. And you're an adult, letting people see your writing and see how horrific it is. And you have no shame about that, but you think you're perfect, though. I know so many stories of men who've had to get help filling out college applications, help filling out job applications, help with this, help with that. And the woman helped him, she helped him, or whatever. She did it. But that says a lot for men who are so perfect. Your grammar, writing, speaking, and spelling should be flawless, honey. It should be flawless. But it's not. So you failed at the most basic level, but you think you're perfect. He thinks he's perfect. Let me get these bots out of here real quick. Let's let this play.
versus getting a woman who automatically thinks highly of men.
Okay.
And you got to look at what a woman does. You got to look at a woman's track record. If she has children, all these things come into play on how she thinks about men. And it may be better than it was, but does that mean a man should risk marriage to that woman? And
He said you got to look at what a woman does, what she thinks, blah, blah, blah. But notice he's not telling her the same. He's not saying, and vice versa. You need to look at what a man does. You need to look at his track record. It's not about him. Men are perfect, according to Kevin. They're perfect. It's women who are imperfect and women who need to fix themselves in order to secure a perfect man like Kevin. Do you get it?
especially the kind of men you ladies say you want, they got all the leverage in the world, because we go back to the all it takes for you today is the allegation.
So we come right back to the allegation. I thought we were done with that. But he's saying that her whole leverage is the allegation, while the man's leverage is his money and status. This allegation issue remains on his mind throughout the entire conversation.
Now I'm gonna leave you with this. Chris Brown, a month ago, he was accused of rape by a woman, right?
I didn't hear that.
Yeah. She accused him, filed a police report, some $20 million lawsuit.
Wow.
Lying, lying. Not only was she lying, came to show.
Now, how does he know she was lying? Does he know that? Let's see.
Got text messages and videos and voice messages showing that she just really was a scorned lover.
Mm.
See, men got so much to prove today, to where if a woman doesn't have a track record of being siding with men or being pro male or whatever, it's just too much of a risk.
Wow. Wow, man. So he closes out the conversation by bringing up yet another example of an allegation. This is their number one concern, you guys, because they know how they operate. And they basically just need to know that you won't tell. So he ends it with an example of Chris Brown and allegations made against him and claiming she was just a scorned lover, this, that, the other. I don't know the details of that case, haven't looked into it. So I really have nothing to say other than these rich, famous men do the same thing, if not worse, because their idea is, of course, you would want to be with me. I'm Chris Brown or whoever, fill in the blank. I'm rich. I'm famous. I'm cute. I'm sexy. Millions of women all over the world want to be with me. So why don't you? Do you understand how to a man like that, your no is basically like kicking him in the balls, basically. It's the equivalent of kicking him right square in the balls. You telling him no. It's like, hold up, do you know who I am? You must not know who I am. You don't watch TV. I'm this person. I'm rich. I'm famous. I have clout. I have status. I'm on this. I'm on that. I'm on the cover of this, cover of that. Women all over the world want me. I'm sexy and I'm good looking. And you don't want me? It's like, no, actually, I'm not attracted to you. That's what brings out the violence because they feel every woman should want them, and especially you, if they've chosen you and you don't. It's the ultimate insult because to them, even though this is not how you mean it, to them, you're basically saying all of that you've done doesn't impress me or it doesn't move me or I'm not interested even after all that. Like, I'm not interested because they don't know what else to do. It then becomes a situation where it's like, well, hell, well, I'm rich, I'm famous, I'm popular. Women want to sleep with me, but she doesn't. Well, I don't know what else to do then. When they don't understand that all women are not attracted to all men at all times. But that's a level of empathy I wouldn't expect them to have. Or she just may not like you. Like half of the male celebrities right now are just so gross to me. They're creepy and they're gross because they're just so nasty. They sleep with any and everything. They make multiple children all over the place, making single parent homes all over the place. The same thing they claim to hate. They love creating. It is beyond fascinating. They hate the single mother. They hate the concept of single parenthood, but they literally go out here and create it all day, every day, multiple times. So, your character, the misalignment of your mind, the things you talk about, the type of entertainment you put out there. No, I'm not turned on by you. I'm not attracted to you. I feel like you would be a huge liability to my life. Oh, that would send them over the deep end because all women are supposed to say yes to them. But anyway, the fact that he brought up yet another example of false allegations, it's like, what are y'all doing in your lives to where this is coming up all the time? Because I know of men who've never been accused, never stood accused, or if they were, I just didn't hear about it. But I know of men, lots of men who've never stood accused of anything to the sort, which means you can live your life as a man and never be accused of sexual inappropriateness. But they are so terrified of it. I wonder why.
Understood.
So good conversation though.
All
Good
right.
back and
Thank
forth.
you,
Have a
Kevin.
good one. Bye bye.
You too. Bye.
All right.
Talking about good conversation. So, big tech is enabling groomers and predators to teach and coach other budding predators and is attempting to train women to see the world through a predator's eyes. While I strongly believe in free speech, I cannot align with speech that leads to real world harm of real people, in particular women and children. If we do not, read too slow. If we do not take a stand now against this, our future will look worse than it does today. Thank you, Nyla, for bringing this to our attention. And that's where I first saw it on her channel. How you can take action. Report the video to Instagram, as many of you already had. Thank you. That video is not on YouTube. That video is actually on Instagram. And I think it's actually still there. Shows you how much they care. Write to the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children about what you just saw. I think they need to be made aware of this. Write to your state and local representatives demanding action against open online grooming schools. Like, to me, if you want to go teach people how to groom and they want to be groomed so they can become predatory groomers, you need to pay for that. But that should not be on the public airways, just like you're not allowed to say curse words and you're not allowed to say bad words on public airways. You shouldn't be allowed to groom future predators on public airways either. We can't even say the F word or the S word, without I think they get fined by the FCC, I think, if like a curse word comes on like regular TV, like live TV, they can get fined for that. So you're such prudes when it comes to curse words and things of that nature, but we allow predators to groom people online and teach other people how to groom? Make it make sense. Talk to your sons about abusive behaviors and toxic influencers. Like, y'all have to be aware that this could creep in beyond your detection. He could be sitting at the kitchen table listening to a podcast of Kevin Samuels and you would have no idea. So, what you need to be aware of are, it's probably already too late at that point, but literally you'll hear your 16-year-old son say something like, "Huh, women these days." Like if he starts to sound like he has very adult concerns and he is a young person, you know that he's been probably listening to some of this. And then if you start to just hear the conversation shift to a lot of hostility towards women for no discernible reason, like he hasn't even really dated like that, or maybe he's had one girlfriend, you need to get concerned because it only gets worse from here. Okay. Similarly, you need to talk to your daughters about abusive behaviors, red flags, and other warning signs because a lot of women are just like the woman in the video. A lot of girls are like the woman in the video, very soft. That's why I really hate to see these terrorists beating up on these women like this because I know how sweet most women are. Most women are sweet, they're gentle, they're very docile, they try to make peace. And it's just so sad to see them getting treated this way, in spite of the fact that they're not offering up that energy. Like people, well, these men would consider me abrasive compared to some of the women that I know that are super gentle, super sweet, super soft, won't even say one curse word out of their mouth. You know what I mean? Very delicate, but in that delicacy, they've lost all their fighting instinct and they've lost all their protective instinct. They're just like a sheep being led to the slaughter, basically. And I'm the sheep who turned around and ran away. So, there's a definite difference. But that difference, I'm telling you, is life saving. Life saving. And finally, speak out against grooming content every opportunity you get. Because I think this is the direction that they're getting ready to try to take with all of this. So when you see it, say something, report it, make sure every entity concerned with the protection of women and children know that this is going on. Send them a copy. I wouldn't send them this video. This video is a little bit too long, but I would send them the first one that's only about, I think, 20 minutes, 22 minutes. Send them a copy of it. And don't send it without context. Make sure you explain to them what is taking place here. A very high profile social media influencer has publicly groomed a mother, and he appears to be targeting minors. And you need to let them know what they're getting ready to watch and why it's a problem. And we need to stay on this until we see something happen because we cannot stand for this. We've been getting beat up on a lot verbally over the internet for the past couple of years. We've taken a whole lot. We've let a lot roll off the back. We've challenged a lot. But now you are trying to come for the kids. And no, absolutely not. We will not stand for it. We will not take it. Thank you to everyone who has taken action, who's sent a report, who shared the video, who did something. If this inspired you to do something and you did, thank you so much. You are appreciated. And it is us who is going to bring about this change. We're bringing all of this to an end, possibly this year. And with that, you guys, I'm going to go ahead and close the show. Thank you all for being here. Thank you to everyone who watches on the replay. And thank you to everyone who supports the channel. And we will talk again very, very soon, okay? Bye.